take you for your money, whatever else bring. And I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Take me. Guitar Players Planet. 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 Sunny skies, the smell of palm tree air. Looking back, I could never feel fair. The way that music has touched my soul, the way that the South holds its control. But I've got a new way to choose. I'm gonna start running back to the land of new. of the lost Lone Ranger. Can I break this spell? If I do one thing right, I may do two things wrong. If I walk that fine line, I will always take Guitar Players Planet. You see it in the papers, you read it every day. The riots and the fires going on in South LA. The muggers and the government, they're all wanting the same thing. They take you for your money, and whatever else you bring. Well, I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Take me. Guitar Players Planet. 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 I've seen a lot of bankers, and I've seen a lot of cops. I've seen a lot of lawyers pull out all of the stops. I've seen a lot of children with their parents in their hands. I've felt a lot of women refuse to understand. Well, I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. You see it in the papers, you read it every day. The riots and the fires going on in South LA. The muggers and the government, they're all wanting the same thing. They take you for your money, and whatever else you bring. Well, I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Take me.
And we are live. And hey, everybody. Got TJ Connolly here. Sorry about we're
Hi,
running
everyone.
15 minutes late. I do apologize, but I could tell we had some minor video issues. But you can see us, you can hear us. We got comments rolling, and have a good show tonight. So we're waiting on Eric. I'm hoping he goes up. We already got a whole bunch of comments. Let's see. You're seeing already, right, TJ?
Yep, I got this. I'm just going through the comments. There's a bunch there.
Let's see. Bill Brown. Tarek is there.
Mm.
Let's see. Mark is loving the music as usual. Thank you, Mark. That's actually my band. But from 1992. And
Wow.
I think that is actually a song called Guitar Player's Planet. And that's made by me and a couple other guys, brother, one of our original things, and that's it. And it's copyrighted. Anyway,
Nice.
so TJ, ZWO ASIR. Well, I know you that you're imaging. So, what are you actually going for tonight? What's going on? I know you got the observatory, but you got a lot of stuff going on. So why don't you give it a whirl and tell us what you got working?
Yeah, so tonight I'm imaging M61. I want to go after that supernova. Um, this is my second night with the pier. So last night was more just polar aligning, getting it all set up. All right. Can you hear me or am I cutting out?
I can hear you. Let me just check face real quick. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I have the Skyshed pier set up, so I'm pretty excited because compared to my tripod, the pier is so stable. I installed that myself. I filled it with sand, and it actually dampens any vibrations. So when I was knocking on the pier, I just was checking out to see what it was like. And I did it before I added the sand, and then I did it after, and I was really impressed with how stable and solid it is. And tonight's my first night that I'm going to be guiding with it because last night, like I said, I was just polar aligning the scope. So this is a whole new game for me. It's a whole new level. It's actually gonna. I think it's gonna increase my imaging out there and bring me up another notch on there with my imaging. So I'm pretty pumped about it. Hopefully the pod gets delivered soon. I know it was supposed to be here in March. But the factory up just outside of Toronto got closed down. But I just heard that they're reopening and they have a skeleton crew right now. So I'm hoping that my pod gets all finished up and delivered maybe later this month if I'm lucky, or hopefully by June.
Nice.
So I primarily image with that 9.25 SCT. I love that scope. It's my favorite scope. I've used the Teleview MP 101, and I just like the SCT scopes. I have a lot of fun with them, and I've tried a lot of different scopes, the RC scopes. And I started out with the F3.9 Orion Newtonian, and I think that's what helped me get my collimation in check and really helped me out. So when I throw the Hyperstar on, I'm not really struggling with collimation, and I get right out there and catch those photons and image. So, yeah.
Crichton too. I can never pronounce that right. Are the RC scope? I saw a lot of picking them up online over the past couple of weeks. A lot of people have been getting them. The 6-inch DSOs, a couple other ones, but apparently it's a hot item. Right?
Yeah, those are nice scopes. I like the crisp diffraction spikes on them. They always look pretty to me.
Yeah.
But I'm really not a fan of the diffraction spikes. So that's why I go to the SCT and the Hyperstar. But tonight I'm imaging with the 0.7x reducer from Celestron.
Okay.
So it's bringing me to about 1,665 millimeter focal length instead of the 525 millimeters with the Hyperstar.
Oh, nice. That'll work out. You guys a little bit of a wider field.
Yeah, and another thing I see people comment on are the the OAG versus the guide scope, and I went with the ZWO OAG, and then I got the Orion Thin OAG. But I didn't really like that. I mean, I did good guiding with it, but it was always tricky to find a guide star. And if
Yeah.
I'm not in the right spot, I have to move around or move the prism a little bit. And I'm a big fan. I mean, this is one of my secrets here. I reuse my flats, so I'm not
Okay.
really the one to really move the prism around or screw up my imaging train. So I can still use the same flats, but if I move it around, then I'll catch some new flats with my spike of flat panel. So it's not too big of a deal, but I just like to take shortcuts here and there.
Nice. Yeah, I don't blame anything that we could do kind of save on the imaging time is a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we had a couple of people going back and between, cooled and uncooled cameras about a couple of weeks ago. How much
Mm-hmm.
time that saves, especially when you're doing your dark frames. Dark
Yeah.
frames, bias, all that stuff. So some cameras, some people don't even take biases anymore, depending on camera you have. But I
Yeah.
mean, it saves so much more time. A cooled camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the
And
only way to go.
yeah, I'm using the 2600, the ZWO ASI
Hmm.
2600 MC, so it's an OSC camera. I love that camera. It's my favorite camera. I'm a big OSC guy. I'm not a well, I use monochrome cameras. I have the 1600, but since I've gone to the 294 and the 1600, I have the dark skies, so I don't have that problem with light pollution. So I don't really throw a narrowband filter on it that often. And I actually have a cool photo of like the Horsehead Nebula and the Cone Nebula, and I really like it in broadband. Like just throwing a UVIR filter on it, the colors really pop and are vibrant to me. So, and I don't think it pops like that with a monochrome image. I mean, it's nice to add the narrowband images to the OSC data, but I just like the broadband data and the broadband color that pops. So,
Yeah, there's like true. Unfortunately, in Long Island, we're Bortle 8, borderline Bortle 9 skies, and it's almost self defeating to dub band sometimes because the gradients are
yeah.
just so horrible. And with a lot of work, you could get them out. But I mean, a narrow band on Long Island is kind of, it's saving time, I guess, for us. Even though that the colors for me, the bicolor and
Mhm.
I'm sorry, the dual band and the tri band stuff, color. I always found it a little cartoonish, I guess is the word for it. A little
Mhm.
different. But I've always been a broadband and quote unquote true color. But
Yeah.
it's so hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, there are people doing amazing stuff in light sky with broadband though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm trying a new method out, which is basically it's using the a dual band filter like the L enhanced or the ZWO dual band, and
Yep.
splitting the channels in uh, in APT, and then bringing it into adding the sulfur channel. So that's a new thing I'm trying to test out. Are you able to share the screen here? Because I have the Cone Nebula
Yes.
out just to show
So
the
if you
colors.
so you're on the Wirecast dashboard, right? So if you look, I believe it's gonna be where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I think it's only on yours. I believe on the gear on the bottom right, the little gear like a gear.
Okay, I think I got it here.
Yep, yep. There you go.
Okay,
And
so then if you pull this is no narrowband filters. This is just broadband. I put a UVIR filter in just to get rid of some of the star bloat, but I really like the colors and down in the bottom right, the little cluster. I like the little orange or yellowish gold stars. So. Okay. Okay. And then how do I give it back to you now? Shit. Okay, I think I got rid of it.
Like that. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Rex says, "This is a camera that I'm gonna buy soon. I hope." Steve Flanagan just bought an ASI 1600. Steve is our one of our. Actually, a lot of these guys are, I guess, repeat customers to AstroWorld and watching the show week. So we've been doing this now for
Nice.
we've been doing this now for a little bit 2 months. So this I think you're number 10.
Wow.
so I appreciate you coming
Okay.
on.
Great.
Steve Flanagan said, "Hey everyone, don't tell Dan I'm late." Bob Moore, how you doing, Bob? And lot of people on. So good.
Yeah.
So you're gonna try and get that supernova tonight, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot for M61. Hopefully, I can get some data. I mean, my polar alignment looks pretty good.
Okay.
Just have to capture some data. Obviously, I was kind of rushing to come up here on the show for 9 o'clock. I was out there at 8:54, and I was like,
Me
"Oh
too.
gosh, I got to go boot up the computer."
Yeah,
But
I was
yeah,
sitting. I was like,
but
go ahead.
I'll
Sorry.
pay more attention later.
No, my wife was like,
No, I said I'll pay more attention later.
yeah, oh yeah. But my wife was like, I was like, oh my god, it's 8:20. She's like, well, don't worry, you got time. I said, I got a polar line. I got to do this. I got to get the show rolling. Things going on. I got a lot of stuff's got to be the next 40 minutes. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Be fine. Then we ended up being 15 minutes late. So, so, so actually, I got on your. So you were saying before with the pier, you filled pier. You said with sand. Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah. So I had a lot of different recommendations of what to do with the pier, and what I did was went down to Lowe's. I picked up some playground sand, and I got two big concrete mixers because when I did my pier and all the posts for the decking,
Yep.
hand mixed it with a shovel and a garden hose. So I
God
had
bless you.
two big troughs. So what I did was. I just filled them up I put the sand out there, and last several days it's been sunny to just let the sand dry out. So it was a nice beach type sand. So that way it doesn't bring moisture inside or cause some rust or rot or anything like that. I mean, I don't know how bad it would be, but I just take precautions, and I want to make sure it's done right and done correctly so it'll last. And I mean, I'm really impressed with it. How it's held up. I looked into different ways of mounting it because I didn't know if I should put some stainless steel washers underneath to create a barrier so the metal isn't right on the concrete. But after some of the forums told me to go ahead, just bolt it right down to the concrete, that was what I did. And
Nice.
I mean, it'll last a long time. Probably as long as I own my house, it'll be good. So I'm not too worried about it.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Well, I showed you the picture of the pier. A friend of mine is trading me for, and so that looks like that's going in the backyard too. So I mean, we'll see what's with that. So I'm not sure how. I am not very good like you are with. You call me. I'm a mechanical, I guess. So so I got somebody that's gonna help me out and just hole and put some cement in there. It's just gonna sit out. I'm not gonna have an observatory or anything. It's gonna be a pier out in the middle of my backyard, just to help with the setup,
Yeah.
the polar alignment, and that kind of stuff. Take a lot of time off, wasting time doing stuff that we don't have to worry about. Spend it images.
Yeah. And one thing I saw in your pier picture, you had it was labeled north. So what I did with my pier, which I was kind of dumb, I didn't look at all the instructions on the pier, so I just installed it how I wanted it to. But I didn't realize my pier, it actually, the top has some bolts and you can actually pivot it, so you don't need to build a template like I did to put it polar north. So I actually had my compass out there and I had some plywood, and I drilled my bolt holes in the plywood and used that as like a template to mount my bolts. So that way the mount, or the pier, was actually polar north. But I didn't realize after the fact, looking at it, I was like, oh wow, I could have just adjusted it, and it didn't matter the arrangement of the bolts or how I had the bolt pattern. As long as the bolts went on it, it would have been good. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, that north, I guess, table that's on there, that is actually, it's still at his house. I haven't picked it up yet. So that's what he did to he used it before. So he has a new observatory now.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need the pier anymore. So he's like, picking it up. When are you picking it up? I want it out of here. So hopefully tomorrow, and Dan, if you're listening, maybe tomorrow I'll give you a call and pick that thing up. So a friend of mine who's a contractor is going to help me out, building the base and pouring the concrete down a hole, like, and make sure it's level and all that stuff.
Nice.
So, yeah. So,
yeah.
The ASI Air, I know you're like the foremost, I guess, knowledgeable person that I know about anything ZWO for that most. You and I bumped into each other in last year, so what are the type things that you see with the ASI Air that a lot of people usually have issues with, whether that be connection or software, or what do you see the most, or what kind of things you get the most of regarding the ASI Air?
So there's two versions of the ASI Air. There's the original one that came out about 2.5 years ago, and that's the one I originally started with. I was a beta tester for it. I've tested that ASI Air out from the start, so I know the device inside and out. I've been active on the forums and on the ASI Air Facebook page trying to help everybody. So a lot of the issues I see are with connections. A lot of people are trying to get their gear compatible with it, and so originally it was meant for just the ZWO ASI cameras, and then ZWO opened it up to Canon and Nikon cameras, and that actually brought several issues with connections. People trying to add cameras that haven't been tested thoroughly yet on it. But I mean, ZWO, they've been very responsive, and they've been great to troubleshoot. There's always bugs that they're fixing. There's new updates that are coming out fairly frequently. But with the ASI Air, it's meant to be a simple astrophotography device. It's plug and play. You don't have to load drivers. So a lot of the issues I see with it are people using incompatible cameras, or they're using bad wires, or they're trying to use it with Sky Safari and they have the improper settings in Sky Safari to carry over. But surprisingly, I didn't know this because I've been imaging since 2013. And a lot of the issues that I had, now I look back at it and I was like, oh, wow, I probably had a bad cable. I didn't know cables were so basically delicate and fragile until I got the ASI Air, because I would throw, and plus it has to do with my climate too, because I'm out there imaging in the cold, so the cables get a little brittle. But 8 out of 10 times when there's a connection issue, I tell people, try a different port on the ASI Air, unplug the device and plug it back in to the USB, swap out cables, and that usually fixes the problems. With the ASI Air Pro, though, it's built in an aluminum case, and it also has the power wire hub inside. So I think that's interfering with the Wi-Fi signal, because the Wi-Fi on the ASI Air Pro is horrible. I'm running a travel router, a TP-Link travel router,
Uh-huh.
and it acts as an external antenna. It's pretty cool because I'm shooting it probably from my pier location. It's about 75 feet from the house. So the TP-Link is eliminating my 150-foot Ethernet cable that I had running out to the mount. So the TP-Link eliminated that, which is great because I'm always a fan of less wires, less cables, and it was just another cable that was going up the mount, so I could get rid of that with the TP-Link. But I think I've also tried the external USB plug and play antennas because ZWO opened it up on the latest test software for the antennas.
Yeah.
And I really didn't see too much of a difference, but that was on the 2.4 gigahertz, so Wi-Fi mode. So I like to use 5.0 gigahertz because it has quicker transfer speeds.
Sure.
However, it has shorter range.
A lot shorter, yeah.
Especially with the 2600 camera. With the 2600 camera, I'm shooting about each frame is 50 megabytes. So that's quite a bit of data to go wirelessly. And so the plug and play antennas that I've tested with it are 2.4 gigahertz, and they're way too slow. So the best solution for the connection that I found is the TP-Link travel router. It's like $34 on Amazon, free 2-day shipping, and I had it installed. And I actually was on the forums tonight, and I saw a couple people with questions and having issues setting them up. But they're very simple to set up because all you do is switch it. It has 3 different modes. Switch it over to client bridge mode, and connect it to the ASI Air, and it works on the original ASI Air or the Pro. Connect it via Ethernet cable, and then it's just basically using that same. I think it's the SSID. I'm not a computer guru,
No, yeah,
but it's
an
basically
SSID.
using the same Wi-Fi. Yep. So SSID. So it's running that same SSID. So I just connect to it through my phone, and it's basically just extending that signal inside. So I have it running to my Wi-Fi extender, and my Wi-Fi extender then broadcasts that Wi-Fi signal all throughout my house. So
Nice.
right now I'm in the computer room, which is on the opposite side of the house as uh, the pier, and I still have full reception through the extender. So it's pretty wild how it works.
Yeah, that it definitely saves you a lot. If you could anything you could do to eliminate wires, especially in this hobby. I mean, I still haven't figured it out,
Hmm.
you know, you got
Yeah.
wires for you got your doohickeys, you got your focuser. If you have a rotate, you got that. If you have, I mean, we could just go on and on. I mean, I purchased the Eagles, so I mean that, kind of helped out quite a bit getting up as far as the wire is concerned. And the same thing with the ASI Air. You're
Hmm.
gonna get those wires up instead of dragged down. So that's the big help as far as organizational.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you want to share the screen and I can go through the ASI Air, the settings? Because I have it up on my computer, so I can actually show it because I'm sending it from my iPad over to the computer through the screen share feature.
Yeah, sure. I'll put
If
you on
you want
full
to check it
screen,
out.
and you want to share your screen, right?
Yeah, I'll share
Yeah,
that.
go ahead. Share the screen, and I'll push it on.
Oh, let me just. I think it timed out on me, so I'm just pulling it back up. There we go. All right. Can you see my screen mirror now, or? There we go. Okay. Do you have it now? Okay. All right, so this is the ASI Air interface. This I'm running on my iPhone 10. I also have another version running on my iPad of it. So you can connect as many devices as you want. So it's perfect for outreach and to basically, if you have a couple iPads connected to it, pass it around the crowd and show them live images of the sky. Because there's nothing more that I hate the most than showing the sky and having some kid say, "Oh, I don't see anything," or "Oh, all I see is a cloud." And I'm like, "Well, try to use your averted vision and try to make out some of those wispy bands. That's a galaxy there." So this is actually mind blowing for the kids when I show them this, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's up there. You're looking at that right now." When this is the ASIR interface. This is on the preview screen. On the right-hand side here, you can see it says preview there. You can go to the focus screen, the polar alignment screen. The ASI Air has an awesome polar alignment feature in it where it plate solves. Then you can either manually rotate or it will rotate your mount 60 degrees and it'll plate solve again. And then you just move your altitude and azimuth knobs to the direction that it tells you to do to polar align. Also, as a preview screen, on the preview screen, this is where you plate solve. So you can see how fast, look how fast it plate solved, zero point 0.3 seconds. And I mean, yeah, I've never, I used SG Pro before and I could never plate solve this quickly. So you can see it has my R. Mhm. Yeah, yep. So I mean, it's lightning fast. The slowest plate solve that I have is usually about 5 to 10 seconds. That's the slowest one. But if it's on a bright target or an area with several stars, then it'll plate solve pretty quickly. And it'll tell you your focal length and your true field of view. And with the ASI Air, it'll plate solve on the original ASI Air down to 0.4 degrees, and on the ASI Air Pro down to 0.2 degrees. So it's very, it's nice. So for my SCT scope at the high focal length, you can see here at the 0.7x, I'm at 0.81 degrees by 0.54 degrees. So then I can click to sync the mount, and this basically syncs it to Sky Safari. So then that way I can do perfectly framing on my target and everything. Uh, then underneath the preview, you have your auto run screen. And this is where it's very simple to set up your sequence. You can add more sequences. So if you want to add more images or more exposures or change the bin on it, you can do it that way as well. So it's very cool. The histogram, it has an interactive. You can zoom in on it. Basically, adjust your preview. It doesn't do anything to your image. It just adjusts the histogram preview. So has the focuser. So I have a ZWO E. Oh yeah, no problem. Hmm. Oh yeah, they've been shipping quite well. It's actually they've been shipping quicker than the US vendors that I've been dealing with. So when I order something from ZWO, I pay the extra $20 for the expedited shipping, but it's from China to Shanghai, China to Plattsburgh, New York in 2 days. So even with the virus, it's kind of funny because they threw in some because they knew that I'm one of with my job, I'm always out there with the public. So they threw in some surgical masks for me, which was very nice of them. So they do a great job. I really like ZWO a lot. So I'm showing my PhD screen here. This is the guiding interface. And just to show you real quick what it looks like on there. And then one new thing they have is a annotate field, so you can annotate your images, kind of like how in PixInsight they have the annotate feature in there. That's same with the ZWO ASI Air. So it's a cool system. It's I've been using this for the last 2.5 years now, and I love it. And I wouldn't go to any other way to image. And you can see different settings here. You can hotspot frequency band. You can change from 5 gigahertz down to 2.4 gigahertz, and so forth. One new feature that's really cool on the ASI Air, they added controllers. Because so before on the current version, which this is a test version of ASI Air I have loaded right now, but you can see the dew heater control. Before it was either fixed on or off. So now you can actually slide it and adjust the power on that on the dew heater,
Nice.
so you don't have to run it at full all night. The
That,
other Yeah, so the other thing they added too is a flat panel. So if you're using a oh, so if you're using a flat panel out there, you can dim it down just with the ASI Air, so it's not too bright while you capture your flats. So that's kind of a cool
that's
feature too.
That's pretty awesome. The thing that I love about the ASI Air, either version, 'cause the first one, and it just works. It's just everything just works. You can't kind of get in there, mess around with things too much to things up, you know. So it's really
Yeah.
really a great tool. I mean, it works awesome. The couple times that I tried it out, I hooked it up with my with an AZ GTI, which was interesting in itself.
Hmm.
You got to go into station mode and other things because of the built Wi-Fi on both. It got a little confusing once you got past that, and it just worked. I mean, the polar alignment, the software in it worked well. Um, Jason James is saying new. Oh yeah, actually answered that. Is that the new beta software? The tool seems new. Um,
Yep. Yeah. So this is the newest beta version that's out there that we're testing, and there are still a few bugs that ZWO is working out on it. But once it's pretty much fine tuned, it'll be pushed out to public. But if you want to test out the software, ZWO has a PGY link for Android users, and they also have a test flight link for Apple users. So you can just join the test group and get out there and test if you want. However, I highly recommend only people who understand the ASI Air do it, because it can really wreck a night of imaging. Because if I load up a test version and it's full of bugs, there's times where I'm about to just throw the ASI Air into the woods. But I just swap out to my iPad and put a new SD card in, load up the new operating system, and I'm back to the full version. And then I reflash the test SD card,
yeah.
and yep, and then I go back to it. So it can lead to frustrations if you're testing their software for them, but they are very responsive. They're very good to deal with, and ZWO is always looking to improve. And they've based all their products on customer feedback too. So yeah. So the only downfall I found with the ASI Air Pro is the Wi-Fi range. So to correct for that, you need that TP link or a travel router to extend that signal out further.
Yeah,
Other
definitely
than
need to
that, everything
connect.
works great. Yeah. Yep.
Let's see what we got. Apparently, they couldn't hear me for a little bit when I switched over to your screen. That's okay. I wasn't saying anything important, guys. Don't worry. Let's see. Steve says looks good, but I think I would put more money into an Eagle, so you could use whatever software you want. It's triple the price. I think it's more triple. It's a little more than triple, depending which one you get. But I got for a package that's literally like what camera? Oh, on this camera. It's like this big. It's like a little bit bigger than a hand. That literally everything just works so flawlessly as far as the software is concerned. The ASI Air Pro, it works really well for what you're getting. I mean, it's definitely worth it for a setup. I can't say anything bad about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the only other thing though with the ASI Air though, I mean, obviously it only works with the ZWO
Yeah.
focusers and everything. So I had to shelve a lot of my gear and switch over to ZWO for it. So I mean that could offset the cost of the Eagle as well. Because I mean I
Yeah.
had a $600 focuser that I switched over to the
Oh.
ZWO EAF, and it's actually sitting on my shelf right now and not
Oh
getting
no.
used. So
You can always
yeah.
put it on nights. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's one of my downfalls, though. I cannot get rid of equipment because I'm like, oh, maybe I need it down the road.
I
So
know.
I just keep it.
My wife calls
Yeah,
me a
I'm
hoarder.
sure your wife's. Yep.
Like that stuff. I mean, look. I mean, I got stuff on my desk. This. I got spacers. I got stuff all over the place. I got a secondary for I got screwed secondary for a Celestron here. I got stuff all over them, just like everybody else. This
Yeah.
hobby will take over your house. It will take your
Oh yeah.
house.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's so
Mhm.
tough. Mark said he'll never give up his Nightcrawler. I said, Mark, if you give it up, you just got it a week ago. So don't give it up yet.
Yeah.
He picked that up. That's awesome. That Nightcrawler, that's $3,600 for a focuser. But it's a built-in rotator and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else is new with the Zito? Anything coming out new or anything that you're at
Oh,
liberty to see?
yeah, well, they just released that new tilter. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
I used one on my solar scopes. I used their original one, which had the thumb screws, but now it looks like you need a Allen wrench to make the adjustments, which I'm not a big fan of. However, with the thumb screw adjusters on their tilter, I was always kind of scraping my fingers trying to get to them. But with the Allen screws, it looks like it's going to be easier to use.
That's
So they do have the cool products, and I've been pushing them, and I don't know if they'll ever come out with it, but a filter wheel for the Hyperstar, just
yeah.
because I want to be able to sometime throw up the 1600 with some narrowband filters, and it would make life a lot easier being able to just use a electronic filter wheel on there. And with my 9 1/4 with the smaller aperture, obviously the EFW Mini creates too large of a shadow on it, so it's blocking a lot of light. I have seen somebody with a 9 1/4 that used it, and Steve from Starzona was generous and sent me an adapter so I could use the EFW Mini on it. But I had
Okay.
it out for a couple nights, and it was just I didn't really like how it was performing. So I can see how on the 11-inch Hyperstar it would work, but 9 1/4 I'm too small. It's too small for that.
Yeah. Block.
But it
Yeah.
would be nice. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, I'm feeding ZWO some new ideas, and they've been working on some stuff. And hopefully, I'd like to see a field rotator come out. I know Pegasus just released a beautiful field rotator out there, the electronic field rotator. Pegasus also just released that power box. I think it's the advanced
The
power box. That looks
advanced.
really
Yeah.
cool.
It does look good.
Yeah,
They're
I
coming out
just
with a
saw the price
rotator
tag
too.
on it. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
It was over $500 though for that advanced pocket power box though.
Yeah,
So that was
it's
a
like
little
a happy.
steep.
It's like a happy medium, I guess, because the ultimate's like what 680, something like that,
Yeah.
seven
Yep.
hundred bucks. But
Yeah. But I don't know if you remember at NEAF, I bought the original, the pocket power box off you
yep,
over at
of course I remember.
your
Absolutely.
stand there. Yeah. Yep. But I mean that was
Yeah,
only $200.
yeah,
So jump
yeah,
up
it's
to
like 280.
500.
No, well, no, that's actually the advanced. I forget what the advanced has something on it because they still have the pocket power box, the regular one for 200.
Hmm.
The advanced, I want to say it's a metal casing, the plastic one. It
Yep.
also has dew heaters. No, the other one heaters too. I'm trying to think what
Yep.
else.
Yeah. The only other thing I saw it was the USB hub. So the
Right, right,
the
right. That's
advanced
what
has the USB hub on it. Yep.
I'm actually looking at my guide and trying to look at my guide and see how see how I'm doing here. I just with this is only my second night out with the EQ6R Pro. And
Hmm.
I also upgraded my guide scope to a the Skywatcher
Hmm.
ED, and I mean it's been decent so far. It's about point 0.6 to 7, which I'll take.
Wow.
So not bad. I'll take that. What kind of comments we got going? See, you got George is up. George Lutch. Let's see. I use the ZWO ASI 600 with the built-in filter wheel on a Hyperstar. Okay. How do
Okay.
you
What
like that?
size scope is he using that on?
Um, he hasn't said yet. Let's see. I want to say it was
Yeah,
a
because I
9 to
know
10.
Samara Nagel, she used it on her 11 inch and she had some fantastic results. And the nice thing too is she was using the 1 1/4 inch filters,
Okay.
so she didn't need to use the 2 inch filters. Which for my Hyperstar with the Star Zona drawer, I'm using the 2 inch filters on it,
Sure.
just because the Star Zona drawer is further away from the sensor. So with the 1 1 1/4 or the 31 millimeter filters, you really get a lot of vignetting.
Eric just texted me. He's been yeah, he had some issues. Uh, he might be coming on later if we're still on.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm still waiting for George to tell me what kind of scope. So the Powerbox Advance, you can turn off and on these B ports. There's separate switches. He's got 11-inch George. He's using the high power
Nice.
with the yeah. He's got the 11-inch. He says it's amazing on the cooling side. It has 2 fans, and the ease of use makes it worth having. The GT is a smaller footprint than the EFW and the 1600. He's saying so.
Yeah, and Simon, the guy you had on 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
sure,
he
Simon. Yeah,
he's actually, yeah, he was testing the GT and he had some great results with it too.
yeah, yeah. He's that guy's all. He's has so many good photos. The guy
Hmm.
I've been talking to him about 2 years now, and really nice guy, really good guy, and he just keeps on pumping. I guess you gotta love being in New Zealand. No, he's like 2, I think he is. He said he was. So I mean, it's
Oh
just
wow.
crazy. Yeah, so it's like it's better than Cherry Springs. I mean, Cherry Springs is like Cherry Springs is like the Graceland of the East Coast. So so
Yeah. I
it's
don't know. You should come up to the Adirondacks sometime. I'll show you some cool spots up here. We have some really dark skies.
I have no problem up there. That's not a problem.
No, I don't think it's too far for you either, because I've
No,
done some New York City day trips. So I mean, other than traffic, but right now I'm sure you
um,
could get up here pretty quick. And
yeah, I probably get up there in like 3 hours at this point. So,
yeah.
as long as you don't pull me over on the way up. uh, Everyone's saying nice job with the pier. Nice job. I can't wait to see the
Oh,
dome.
thanks.
People keep on. I guess that's me. I think my Facebook is on. That's what that is. People keep on messaging. Sorry, he says me. Okay. How's your M61 looking?
I'm still playing around with it. I'm trying to do multitask here and
I know,
talk
me
to
too.
you and get things going.
If you want, let's see if I could. I don't know if I could do this. I'm like, let's see if this will work. I'm remote desktop to. Let's see if I could do this. I don't know if this is gonna work. We'll play and see. Let's see. Not remote. It's presenter. if this will work. So let's see if you can see this. That there, and you're gonna see my desktops for a second, and
Oh yeah.
there we go. So that's my guiding right now, which is not bad, considering I haven't tweaked it yet.
Yeah.
I'll take that, no problem. I miss. I gotta tell you, I miss my Atlas. My Atlas is sitting on the ground right now, ready to be operated on.
Oh
You know,
no.
yeah, I'm sure what it is. It's about 8, 9 years old now, and I think it's either I don't know what's inside, so bearings or teeth or whatever. I don't know. Don't know what's in there yet. I don't even know how they made them 10 years ago. So, a friend of mine's gonna open it up and take a look inside and see if anything that needs to be replaced. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see what happens. Greg obviously having big problems with guiding. Literally over 2.0. I mean, whereas I was running point 4, point 5 consistently for over 2 years, and it's just a mess. But and there is M101. That's what channel is that? It's dark. What channel is that? This is the green. Green? It's gotta be green. Yeah, it's green. Let's see if we could boost this up. It looks like anyway, but M101's right in there somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, I can see it there. I see the core.
Yeah,
I can see some of the bands out on the outskirts there.
yeah, yeah. And then I'll show you one other thing that I'm working on. If you bring it up, there you go. That's M4 and part of row Lucas, I guess. That's M4 there, and that's
Nice.
MC
Yep.
there. So I'm working on that. I got all the channels up, but I'm just playing around.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, last week, 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to spend a couple of hours with Brecher,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of what does he do? I guess he does one-on-one tutoring with Pixins.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to spend a couple of hours with him. Um,
Yeah, I met him last year at NEAC. He's a great guy. AstroDoc.
yeah, Astrodoxia. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So good guy. He also has guitar, and
Mm-hmm.
it's good. So let's see. Let me just see. My wingman's got me all messed up.
Yeah. So another thing I'm working on right now too is a new website, and I'm actually in the process of making tutorial videos and trying to turn this around. I'm gonna throw some prints on to sell just to kind of fund the page,
Yep.
but it's gonna have some free tutorials and stuff to dig into for everything that I learned. I mean, because you can watch the YouTube videos and watch for hours and hours of them. Everybody does it different. Everybody has different techniques. So I'm just going to throw some of my processing up there. And also, since I do a lot of solar imaging, I was going to put some of my solar processing tips up there, like using auto stacker, then bringing the image
Mm-hmm.
into Registax and adjusting the wavelets, and then bringing them into Photoshop and how to do that. So I'm excited for this website that we're going to roll out pretty soon. My sister is actually a website designer, so she's been helping me out with it and doing a lot of work for me on it. So it's pretty nice of her to do.
That's nice. That's awesome. She does website design. Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
That's awesome. That's all. I tried messing around with that myself and didn't work out very well.
Yeah, it is.
uh,
It is tricky.
I'm trying to get Eric. Eric is trying to come on. but it's giving me an issue as far as not making things smaller and bigger. And
Oh, I can hear you, Eric. Oh, I see Eric down at the bottom.
yeah,
Hey, Eric.
Eric, you may not be able to see him yet. I'm gonna try and get him on the video. I'm having issues again with this program, Eric. What's going on? It worked. It worked great like 7 or 8 weeks straight, and then the past weeks has just been a complete nightmare. And
Yeah, it's nice to see you too, Eric. I was looking forward. I was hoping to meet up with you at NEAF this year, but I don't know. We'll see if they have it in September, because I'll be there in September if they do have it. But um, I, I, so Bob Moore invited me to do a presentation at NEAC, so I'm going to do that. But I'm probably not going to bring the solar scopes. I'm not sure yet. But I'd like to meet up with people and enjoy the show and have fun and be able to chat with people. But I'm just, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks. So the Sky Shed pod was supposed to be here in March. However, the factory shut down. So they're just reopening now. So they have a skeleton crew working. So I'm hoping by next month. And if it comes the end of May, it'd be special. It'd be very nice. But I really don't think it's going to be here that
Okay.
soon. So.
Wow.
So I have my fingers crossed for June, maybe early July, but we'll play it by ear, see what happens.
Sure. Have you gone ahead and at least hooked up your mount to it yet?
Oh yeah, I got it here. This is a live image. I'll share my screen through the ASI Air at M61 with the supernova. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get that up again. It's just going to take me a second.
Yeah. Okay, so while you're doing that, I've actually started taking some advice from a few other people. This past week, I would say at least the past, week or so, I've actually had a couple clear nights. So I've been working on my M51 that I did a few 3-minute exposures, like one night. So now I've actually done some 5 minutes and 10-minute exposures. So I'm looking forward to getting the flats done and and getting that thing into APP so I can start seeing how it looks.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
So how you been?
Yeah, so here's a live image off the ASI Air.
There we go. I'll get that for you.
There. Okay. I'm still waiting for my Pro, man. Still using version 1. I can't now. Let me ask you this question. Speak of the ASI Air, because I saw a little bit of chat going on Facebook about this with the live stacking. How are you doing your live stacks? Because with CMOS, you really don't use bias. They're recommending, at least for the ZWOs, they're really, we're doing flat darks. So are you adding flat darks, or are you just going, lights, darks, and just your flats?
So I do not live stack. I do just the imaging, just because live stacking on the ASI Air does not support dithering, which I
Okay.
get some wicked nasty walking noise if I don't dither. So
Oh
I
yeah,
like to
yeah.
dither.
Hmm.
And so I just use a straight up imaging auto run sequence, and then I
Okay.
just add my calibration frames afterwards. But
Okay.
live
Good to know.
stacking, I mean, it's pretty cool to see the image actually go up, and it's nice to have for outreach. But I mean,
Hmm.
for me, I'd rather just do it my own way at the end. So
Gotcha.
that's how I do it.
Okay. Are you doing any outreach
Yeah.
yourself right now? Have you done any with the quarantine? You probably haven't been able to have a chance to. But do you usually do outreach if if life is normal?
Yeah. So I'm one of the I'm basically I I assist at the Adirondack Public Observatory, also known as the Adirondack Sky Center in Tupper Lake, New York. In the
Okay.
Adirondacks, they have a beautiful observatory, and they're actually working on building a sky museum or a sky center that's going to have a lot of planetarium and some interactive things for the kids. But they have a
Nice.
roll-off roof observatory with a 14-inch Edge HD scope and also a Meade SCT scope and a Teleview NP101 and a
Hmm.
large Newtonian
Okay.
inside. But I mean, it's pretty. It's a nice center. There's a lot of people that come out. It's in a nice tourist area, so they do get a lot of people there for outreach.
Good.
So
Good.
that is a cool thing that I'm involved in as well.
Okay. Now, besides your solar scope and the 9 1/4, that I know you do some great shots with that because you've got the Hyperstar on there as well. Do you have any other scopes besides those? Besides the solar and the 9 1/4?
Yep. So I started out with the Orion F3.9 8-inch Newtonian.
Okay.
That one I have not used in quite some time, and
Okay.
I'm actually that's one that I should sell or give away, but it's still just sitting on my shelf because I'm a hoarder like Dan, so I can't give up things.
Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, you should look at my storage area right now, which is kind of like my warm room until I consider it my warm room down in my basement. Yeah, it's just stacked with all kinds of stuff, man. It's just I've over the past couple of years I've just held on to everything. So I
Hmm.
can totally relate with
Yep.
that. So you still have your so you're using mainly right now the 2600. Do you still so you being a hoarder? So I'm assuming you still have your 294 and other things, right? Or
I do. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. So I have the 294. I have the 1600,
yeah,
and I primarily use the 2600.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
So one of these days, I gotta take the dive into the most world, I guess.
Oh yeah, come on, man. Everybody's
I
doing it. Everybody's doing it. Come on, join up.
don't know. You know what? If I ever figured out film, I probably would have kept on doing that, but couldn't
Mhm.
figure it out, so I stopped. But for whatever reason, I know. Well, see, when I bought my camera, CMOS wasn't even out.
Right,
So
right.
or maybe it was just starting out. But I got the S-Big camera, and I can't say anything bad about it.
No,
So I
I
mean,
mean, if it's working for you, it's working
oh,
for you.
it's working great for me. Eventually, I'll probably even unless if CMOS technology, which is a lot better,
Hmm.
and they'll eventually, if not take over, CC. I mean, there are some CCD chips that are not even made anymore.
Right, right. That's what I
Um,
heard.
so I mean, it's just a price point. I think pretty much as far as CMOS, you can make them just for half the price.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah. So, but speaking of your setup, how's the new mount going?
mine,
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's outside right now. I'm doing M101 again.
Okay.
Was gonna try and do 61 and get the supernova, but
Okay.
I looked at the picture of 61 on my chip and how much
Hmm.
space around it
Yeah.
and how small it would be, and I wasn't sure that I would be able to get out of the dust lanes.
Hmm.
Even I think it's just gonna be so small. It's gonna be so condensed. I don't know. I'll try it anyway, maybe. But in about an hour and 15 minutes, I'm about to do my first Auto Meridian flip with SGP and the E6R Pro. So we'll see how
Okay.
that works out. We'll see how it works out.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, so,
And then you lucked out and you got a free pier. So,
well, it's not gonna be free. I don't know what he wants in return. Eventually,
okay.
he's gonna want something because he gives anything away for free, especially something that costs him $1,200.
Yeah, true.
So I'm hoping that that it's not too crazy. I do have a lot of stuff that I could probably give him though. I don't know what he needs. So
Right. Now, I've been because I was talking with when I first started coming onto the show, I was talking with Tim about the Altair Astro Pier, but it turns out it's the same as the Sky Shed.
Yes, yep.
It's the same exact one. So I'm kind of intrigued on just going ahead and getting one of those. So I've been looking. I would like a metal pier. I mean, I could go ahead and go, I guess, if you want to call it the economical route, and do either wood or concrete. Because I have seen some people do wood piers with a few like with 4x4 posts, put glued and bolted together. So I have seen a few clips or a few pictures of people doing that. But I think I want to try to go for the metal pier, either the Ioptron or I've seen the Ioptron pier, which looks promising, or I go for the Sky Shed, the Sky Pod type.
Yeah, I highly recommend the Sky Shed Pod pier, just because it's well constructed. It's actually designed very nicely. Like I was telling Dan earlier in the show about how I made a template because I didn't realize that the top was adjustable. So you just orient the bolts how you want them in your pier or in the slab below, and then you can orient the mount, the top, to polar north. So it's very handy how that is. And once I bolted it directly down to the concrete slab or the concrete pier, it's solid. I filled it with sand, dry sand, and it does not move. I knock on it, it doesn't ring. It's so sturdy. It's a lot more sturdy than my CGM DX, the tripod, the heavy duty tripod that came with it. It's a lot more sturdy than that. So just for example, since I don't have the pod yet, I've been bringing my optics inside and outside. So with the tripod, when I'd put the scope on, the 9 1/4 scope, it would screw up my polar alignment and I'd have to redo it. However, tonight when I brought the 9 1/4 out there and set it up on it, it did not move my polar alignment one bit. It was still spot on.
Nice. That's one of the reasons why I want to get a pier. Is because I don't want to have to keep dealing with polar alignment because I'm doing that every day with CGX. And I've got it outside, I've got it on, I don't know if you guys have recalled that I posted a few pictures, but this was a while back. I have it on a JMI wheelie bar cart.
Yep.
Okay. It sits on that, and it's basically sitting on, some pavers, but it sits right there. But it just never fails that every day every time I want to go out and image, I have to go out and repolar a line because, I've got my dogs running around, the pier and stuff like, the mount and all that stuff, and they're shaking it, whatnot. So, and then of course wind. So getting a pier would definitely be a plus. So who knows, maybe I can go ahead, and if the wife will, let me do it, I can go ahead and get it this summer. Maybe late fall or early fall, rather. Man. Yeah.
But I was setting up mine. What was it? 2 nights ago. It's supposed to be beautiful, nice night, whatever. And there's a video gonna come out. It's just gonna be too funny. This video is gonna be crazy. I put it out there, and I swear, all of a sudden, this one cloud comes rolling in, dark cloud coming in. And all of a sudden, I'm like, it's not supposed to rain. It's not, they showed 0% rain. They showed some clouds going on. So all of a sudden, I see one little drop go on the telescope. I'm like, oh no. So what do? I don't have my cover. I find my cover. I'm looking all over. I said, you know what? The hell with this. I took I took the telescope off, and I got
Mhm.
everything inside, and then I found my cover. I left them out. I found the cover. I flipped the cover on it, flopped it on there, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden we get a snow squall. Snow
Oh.
is all over the place. It's the middle. It's the middle of May. It's snowing in New York, and
geez.
I know this is the snowstorm you got big time. You right? Did you get a big snowstorm a couple days ago, or a couple inches?
Yeah, we did.
TJ?
Yep.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
probably part
We
of
had a
it.
couple inches up here.
Yeah, so a big snow squall's in, and I go, finally pull it back on, bring everything back on, then it starts to rain. So I found my cover, I put the cover back on. It was like 3 times before I got this thing set up, and I was just like, the hell with it. I'm doing this thing. I can't.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was some funky weather because
Yeah.
it would all of a sudden we get a snow squall, then it would be sunny, and then we get
Yep.
rain, then it would snow again. And I was like, oh man. So I didn't bother setting up my mount because the Weather Channel actually had 0% chance of precipitation, but it was snowing, raining. I'm like,
It
oh,
was ridiculous.
So-
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So one thing I can ask you, TJ, because I know you live up in the, what is it? Are you in the North Country over there, or are
oh
what
yeah,
part of
yeah, yeah. We're the Northern Adirondacks up here.
Northern? So the effect of the cold weather on your equipment.
Oh, I've seen
Because
pictures of that.
I've seen some pictures of you. If it happened to my equipment, I would be crying. Because,
Yeah.
I'm looking. How is this gonna get unfrozen? What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
And is there any major negative issues? A wire disregarding and that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about the tube, everything else. The mount. Is there anything that you've come across with weather that's been?
No, even though you see me put my equipment through some good, some paces, I'm very careful and very good about it. I'll bring it. I have an overhang on my back porch, so if it's still cold outside, I'll leave it out underneath the overhang to come to temperature. So I'm not bringing it right inside my house, and I'm not getting moisture inside or getting rust or any corrosion or anything like that. So I'm really careful about bringing it to temperature. I don't do drastic temperature changes. I haven't hyper-tuned my mount. I'd like to do that, but I haven't done that at all yet. But I can see myself doing that in the future. But I mean, I've been out there in negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, and I've been imaging no problem. I actually get my best guiding when it's below zero. I think it tightens up the gear and tightens up the equipment, so I don't have as much backlash or something along those lines. But it's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, because I can't fathom the temperatures that you get. I complain about Long Island temperatures. I mean, forget about what you get. I mean, but and who's in Canada? Somebody was, I think it was Ron who was in Canada talking about his Ontario. I mean, the weather. I'm ready to go. I am so done with. Forget about what's going on right now. I'm done with the winter. And honestly, the past 2 winters in Long Island, nothing. Piece of cake. No, nothing. I think I pulled out a shovel once in the past 2 years. But you know what? I'm done. Like the one day it's 6, the next day it's 20. I'm done with it. So I went down to I went down to North Carolina and met up with the Charlotte Charlotte Amateur Astronomy Club down in Charlotte.
Okay.
And they gave me a tour of their facility there, and I'm telling you, they actually rent plots of land to people that want it there. So if you want to set up your telescope, you just make a donation to them. They give you like a 8x8 or a 10x10 or whatever you want. And just make it to a club every year, and this is what your dues are. And
nice.
Wow.
They got beds. They got a bunk. They got beds, red lights, and computers, and Wi-Fi, and it's huge. It's right actually in North Carolina. It's just over the South Carolina border.
Okay.
But it's like 40 minutes out of Charlotte. North Carolina. So
Oh, wow.
wonderful place. The guy's name is Ken Miner, who's the president right now over there. He actually gave me they got a 8-inch refractor, a couple of 22, 23-inch Dobbs.
Wow.
And guys that are doing their, the hyper Takahashi's imaging, that kind of stuff. So I mean, with roll off roofs, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me.
You mind if I share my screen again?
No,
yeah,
go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead. Go for it.
I'll put you back on. And
Okay.
tell me when you're ready.
Here you go. So here's Sky Safari. I don't know if you can see Sky Safari there.
Yep.
And there's 61. So
Yep.
now I'm going to go to the live view. And here we go. So this is on the ASI Air, just downloaded. I'm doing 180-second exposures.
Okay.
So you can see the supernova very nicely in this image.
Yep.
And this is just a single sub.
Wow.
And even at F7, I mean, it's such a small galaxy there.
And and you're at what, 600 millimeters?
Yep, I'm 1665.
Oh, I don't even know if I would bring.
Okay, with the flattener. Okay.
At 400 millimeters,
Yeah,
I don't even I would see that.
Yeah, I don't even think I would be able to. It would probably be a bit difficult even for me, even with 970 with my 126 millimeter refractor. So
Yeah,
I have to
definitely a long focal length target.
Yes, yes. Which is one of the reasons why I was looking at that cheap RC.
Yeah.
Yeah, RCs are nice. You can see here I'm cooling the camera down to -20, and my cooler is only working at 56%. It's pretty cold outside right now. I think we're going to be below freezing tonight.
Oh, really?
So it's pretty wild for May. I mean, this is how the clear, crisp nights that I have in upstate New York is, and that's why I can cool my camera to -20 all year round up here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. So let me just show you another cool thing.
Using?
Yep, this is the 2600, and I want to show you something cool here too. So under tools, this is the new release version that's still under testing from ZWO.
Okay.
And Eric, I don't think you saw this because you weren't on the show earlier, but there's an annotate feature, so you can see in PixInsight it does this, but on the new ASI Air version that's going to be released soon, it has the annotation where it'll annotate your images for you. And also, when you go up into the settings, you know how the 12-volt DC output on the ASI Air Pro, people were talking about, oh, we want the customized DO controllers. So ZWO actually implemented it. So you can switch them over to control if you want them only like down to 50%, or even if you're using a flat panel like a LED, like a trace pad, you can actually dim it right here in the app to control that. So it's pretty cool how ZWO is implementing all this stuff.
Yeah, they're doing it. They always have done it.
It's pretty neat.
Patches and their
it's pretty neat.
Their releases.
Do you know if that's going to be for both Pro and version 1 or just Pro? These new
yes,
features?
it is. Yep, it's well. Actually, the power is obviously only going to be for the Pro because the original doesn't have that power hub. Yep, but the original will have everything, and they're working on autofocus right now, so hopefully that's rolled out soon too. Yeah, yep. But I mean, you can see I'm
now let me ask you a question. How did you? No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Eric. How did I?
No, yeah, I was just wondering, how did you get involved with ZWO and becoming a tester and working with them?
So, actually, maybe 4 years ago, I was at NEAF and I was setting up the solar scopes. And I had my Lunt 152 out there. I had Daystar Quark on, I believe it was the 80 millimeter. No, it was a 102 millimeter, Lunt Engineering 102 millimeter. And then I had a Calcium K, Lunt Calcium K on an 80 millimeter. And so I was talking to Sean Wang. He's no longer with ZWO, but he was a great guy over there. and he actually this was when the 1600 was first coming out, and they said, hey, you want to try out the 1600? So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll throw it on there. And I was taking some cool solar images with the 1600. Even though it was a slow frame rate, I was able to do some cool wide, like full disc images of the sun. And so I ended up buying the camera off them at the show. And then I just had a close relationship with them, and they've been really great to me, and they have some great products. So I've just stuck by them and helped them out, and they've been very supportive in my ambitions as well. I mean, I bought the 2600 from them. Good. So, I mean, I was using it, but I paid for it. It's not like they gave it to me or anything like that. But it's a great camera, and that's right now my favorite camera to use. And you can see up on the screen right now. I mean, it takes phenomenal images. It has nice small pixels, so it's great setup for my 9 1/4 scope.
Yeah, that's gonna be a nice shot. That's gonna be real nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna do this all night.
I was looking at the 2600. It's pretty versatile.
Yeah. Yep. So let me give you back the screen.
That's okay.
Another cool thing. This is what I was gonna say earlier too. I'm probably about 300 feet away from my scope right now on the other side of my house. So I have the ASI Air Pro. I mean, it's a known issue with the ASI Air Pro, the weak Wi-Fi and the low range that it has. So I'm running that TP-Link Wi-Fi travel router, and I have that running in client bridge mode to my Wi-Fi extender, which is on the back wall inside of my house. And then that emits the Wi-Fi signal at 5 gigahertz all throughout my house. And you could see through the imaging. I mean, I'm on my 4th frame, and the images were loading fairly quickly. And that each image on the 2600 is about 50 megabytes in size. So it's pushing a lot of data pretty quickly. So I've been able to overcome the range issue on the ASI Air Pro. I mean, the original ASI Air paired with the Pegasus Pocket Power Box is an awesome combination. That's what I was using before I went with the Pro. But I really like that. And I mean, I would be still happy with it because I don't live stack. So there's really no reason for me to have the ASI Air Pro. I mean, USB 3, I don't see the difference between the transfer speeds. I mean, unless you're up close to the scope and you don't have any obstructions. Yeah, sure, it's probably quicker. But when you start getting into range, there's really not that much of a difference between the USB 3 on the Pro and the USB 2 on the original ASI Air.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, that's good to know. Because I'm actually using, I actually have decided I run an Ethernet cable to my garage. And so I have mine just connected directly through a power line adapter. I just have and so I have a power line adapter in my garage plugged in, and then I'm just running it. And then I just connect the Ethernet cable to that. So, and it's nice because, I'm getting, pretty good speed, being hardwired with the ASI Air. I've been happy with it. I have ordered the Pro, and I ordered the 533 MC. Those are what I'm waiting for still, and maybe I'll get them sometime this summer. Just depends on how shipping and stuff like that goes. But the ASI Air Pro has been, the ASI Air itself has been a fantastic piece of tech for me.
Yeah. The ASI 533 is actually in stock right now at Agena Astro. I actually saw that before I came on the show. Because I had somebody that was had somebody that was asking about it, and I just did a quick search to see who had it in stock. And Agena had it. They had 3 in stock when I checked at about 8 o'clock tonight.
Oh, nice. Okay, because I ordered mine through High Point. So who knows? Maybe they may end up having some there too. But I can take a look at Agena. I bought a lot of stuff from Agena Astro.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I know High Point did get a big shipment in recently. Same thing with OPT. Because I know a lot of guys that got their 2600 or the ASI Air Pro from High Point. So I know
Yeah.
there was some shipments going out from them.
Nice.
But
Okay.
yeah, I like to. I mean, I don't really commit to one vendor. They're all great guys. They all do a
Yep.
great
Same.
job.
Same.
So I like to spread it all around and support everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, Starzona's treated me good. Dan's treated me good.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody around in the AstroWorld's been great to deal with. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I like to
Definitely.
look around and see who has it in stock, especially when I was getting my 0.7x reducer in. That's when I learned to not get on the back order list, because I really got screwed over on that, because I was one of the first on the back order list, and I was one of the last to actually get it. So ever since
Oh,
then, I
wow.
don't even bother with back orders. I just look to see who has them in stock.
This is stock
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah. Yeah, because I know the ASI Air Pro is going to be a bit of a wait list. I'm sure. Or have you heard anything yourself, TJ, as far as the backlog with the ASI Air Pro? Have you heard anything from your contacts with
So
ZWO, how they're going with the manufacturing?
Yeah, I've been telling people to check with the vendors and see where they stand on the back order list, just because I know ZWO is shipping them out actively, and
Okay.
it all depends on how big of an order. Because say one vendor has a back order list of 300 buyers, but yet they're only getting 5 ASI Air Pros at a time. I mean, that back order list is going to be sitting there stagnant for a while.
Wow.
But
That's exactly what's going on Camera Concepts too. We have about 100 orders on ASI Air Pro, and we're getting drips and drabs of them, because the OPs and the High Points and the Woodland Hills, the bigger market, are getting a bulk of those because they have a lot more orders than we do. So, so I mean, it's an unfortunate part of this, and it's unfortunate what happened over in China and over across the world. But it's one of the things gonna have to deal with until everything gets back to normal.
Yeah. True. But no, thanks for the tip. I'll take a look at Agena, because, like I said, I've used them. I don't know how many times. That's where I bought all my. I think the majority of all my filters I bought from Agena. All my Optilongs. I know I got those all from Agena. And several ZWO products. So no, good call.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of is that a lot of the Astro Tech shops are doing either bread or firm, or some, like you get your equipment and you pay it off over time. It's like a line.
It's like a credit line, yeah.
It's awesome, and if you don't have that, you gotta have that. You gotta have that, because people want that stuff now, and that's how I got my 6R Pro.
There you go.
I'll pay that off $50 a month for the next 3 years.
Hey, that's what I do. Hey, that's what I do with my CGX. I got that I actually got that off of Overstock.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty much almost paid off right now. I've had it for just about a year, so it's almost paid off. But hey, they gave it to me for like interest free for a short period of time. So I'm like, hey, I'll take it.
Wow. So Agena must have just got another shipment, because Gina at 8 o'clock showed 3 in stock, and now it's showing 10 plus available, and ships next business day.
Oh, wow. Well, that changes a lot for me.
He's placing an order. Look,
I'm actually on it right now.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I just checked the ASI Air Pro. They're still sold out at Agena. So they're probably still fulfilling their back order list.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, but there they are. Yep. So in stock, in plus available. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, so 8 o'clock, it only showed 3 available. So they must have just updated it and got another shipment in.
Okay.
Jason Jane uses the 533 on his ES102. And it's been awful. He wants to save for the 2600 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, wait till you take your first image with the 533. It is
Uh-huh.
so smooth. I remember my first image on the 2600, and other 2600 users can attest to this, and I'm sure Jason can attest to this too with the 533. But once you see that first image, it is so
Mhm.
smooth. There's incredibly low noise. There's still a lot of hot pixels though, but I mean that's
Okay.
standard with any of
But I'm,
the
when
OSD
you're
cameras.
dithering, that helps. When you're
Yep,
dithering and everything,
exactly.
that's going to help out with that. So, no.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, but I can't wait to hear your first experience with how clean the image is. It's
oh, yeah.
unreal. I mean, because I've always had cameras that have amp glow. I've never
Yes.
used the 0771 or anything like that, so I've always had amp glow. So I remember
Mhm.
seeing that first image right off the camera. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even need calibration frames. But of course, I still use calibration
Yeah, yeah,
frames.
yeah.
Right. But still, I mean, I remember when I got my 183 MC, and I was taking my first lights with it, and I was doing 5 minute. I think I was doing 5 or 3 minute. I can't recall, but I saw this. I had no idea what it was called at the time. I thought there was a defect with the camera, or I was like, well, what's this star? Where's this star coming from off the right side off the right side?
But
And
it's not a
every
star.
and then I was like, but then I actually posted one of the pictures. I'm like, what is this here? And everybody explained to me, it's amp glow. So, and it calibrates out with your darks and things like that. So yeah, that was my first experience dealing with amp glows with the 183 MC. Still, with the 294, you get it as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that 533.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. It's gonna be nice, that.
The other thing cool about the 533 is the square chip, so you really don't need to rotate your sensor at all.
No, it's just a 1-inch chip.
And just center your target and you're good. You don't need to rotate it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because
makes me want to sell my rotator.
Because I have rotators on both my both of my William Optics, my 126 and on the GT71. They both have rotators, and I'm always going 90 degrees on those because I want a wider. I want to go more of the horizontal shot.
Yep.
Instead of going vertical, so I'm always rotating that sucker 90 degrees. But I like those rotators; they're helpful. But yeah, the 1-inch square chip for the 533 is going to be nice.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the advantages of having that square chip. Cause I'm wondering, the framing on certain things, like let's say the Andromeda Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
With a little bit longer on the edges. It's a 1-inch chip. Does it fit at all? I mean, you can do astronomy tools and look at it and see. But as far as framing it, and I kind of like making my own frame with it.
Right.
With the Sequence Generator Pro, you could kind of with the rotator, you could turn it and frame it to whatever you want.
Right.
And,
But speaking of that, let me take a look here at, I'm going on astronomy tools. So you're making me think about that. Yeah. So, the field of view. So I'm going to go here to M31. Okay, and just going to throw out my RASA, put my RASA on there.
400 millimeters, it better fit.
Yeah, definitely. No kidding, right? And let's see, this is on a 33. So that's a view. It's because it's such a small chip, it gives you a pretty narrow field of view, which is one thing I like, especially when it comes to galaxies. I kind of like that. But Andromeda, being so close and so big, it takes up the entire sensor space.
Yeah.
So for this, I'm gonna, just out of curiosity, I'm gonna switch this over. I want to take a look at how it looks on my white cat, my red cat.
Well, now you're going down to 250. So
yeah. So exactly. So yeah, that looks a bit better. better.
Just so you know, if you hit the little gear on the bottom of your screen, right under your face, the little gear, you could share a screen there.
There's a gear.
By your
face.
Yeah,
there it is. Yep, there it is.
Yeah,
yep.
So we were playing with that before. That's how you do it. So if you ever want to do it, you can.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Here, I'm just going to throw an image of Andromeda. It's kind of cut off, but I really like how it's shown.
Okay.
I mean, see how, I'm sure, like, kind of with the square chip, you'll be kind of cropping it off a bit with it. But, I mean, it's kind of neat how it shows the core and then the cloud bands and the satellite galaxy at the bottom.
Yep. That's a great pick. Whew.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
And I saw recently Adam Block had another APOD, I think, this week. Did you see that?
He did. He did. He was on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he was. I mean, the man is incredible. I mean, he's got probably close to over 100 APODs. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see here.
What do you got going?
Yeah, George was saying something about it. Just realized that the ASI 533, the 2600, and the 6200 all have the same pixel size. Oh,
yes. Yep. They all have the same pixel size. The only difference that I like about the 2600 stepping up from the 533 is it has a dew heater that's built into it. So when I'm in the ASI Air, let me just mind if I share the screen again to show you?
Yep.
Okay. So I can control the dew heater, and that way I don't get any frost on the sensor or anything like that. And it's such a large sensor as well. And the other difference it has too is the 2600 has an IR window, whereas the 533 just has a anti-reflectivity window. So it's kind of neat. So when I'm shooting my broadband images, like tonight, I'm not using a UV-IR filter. I'm just using the IR cut window in the on the camera. So when I'm in the ASI Air, you can see I'm cooling my camera down to -20. And I also have the anti-dew enabled, so it has the dew heater on it. So you don't need to buy that ZWO dew heater.
Yep.
Okay, nice. That's really nice. Yeah, that's
yeah. So you can see
it'll be the next. It'll be the next one on the list.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's stuff, man.
It is. I mean, any word when they're going to go general availability on the latest update? Have you heard anything right now with the ASI Air?
I know on test flight they're pumping out new versions, so they are correcting the bugs.
Yeah.
But I'm sure once they get the bugs all situated, it'll be out. I've had mine fine-tuned pretty well, and I don't have any bugs. And I'm using a Celestron CGEM DX mount with the ASI 2600. But I'm sure there's some bugs that they're finding, because there's a lot of testers out there. So some guys that are using the DSLRs, Canon or Nikon, are finding, or even some Android users, because I'm always using Apple devices, iOS devices. So I'm not using a Android device. So there could be bugs that they're still working out on those platforms.
Gotcha. I've actually started trying out BlueStacks, which is an Android emulator. You know, I've actually started doing that, checking that out actually on my desktop. And it's kind of nice to just sit here at my desk and run look at the ASI Air right from my PC and, run everything from there. And as well as I've got Sky Safari loaded on there as well. So it's kind of nice to be able to control and do everything right here from the desk every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah, that is very nice to have.
Yeah,
I'm more of like I like having it on my phone so I can just throw it in my pocket, walk around the house, or if I'm doing
sure.
dishes, I can throw it up on the counter, or watching TV, put it on the end table. So I really like being able, but I mean, it would be nice to throw on the laptop and walk around the house with that as well, and be able to
Yeah,
control it through there.
definitely.
Yeah.
I figured the problem towards the end of the show. I figured out every. Unbelievable.
So now, you say now you figuring everything out now, Dan?
No, you know what? I just had a RAM issue apparently,
Okay.
and that's why it wouldn't let me shrink the screens or do anything that I normally do. Apparently my computer can't tell PixInsight, Wirecast, Valerium, remote desktop to my telescope outside all at the same time. So apparently I shut it all down, then all of a sudden I was able to do everything all over again.
Gotcha.
So that's fun. All right. You know, no one's smart, so.
It's fun, dude. Let's see here.
And, funny.
Now, Mark is asking. I don't know if you guys had actually a chance to look at some of the questions or anything like that, but Mark Ellis was asking TJ, do you shoot only with color? Do you shoot only with color, or do you use any mono at all? Because I know you have the 1600.
So yeah, I have the 1600. I have not been shooting with it. It's actually been shelved for right now, just because I have some projects I want to do with the 2600. So I was telling Dan earlier, one of the projects I want to do is use either the L Enhance or the ZWO dual band filter, and shoot some nice emission nebulas. And then
Okay.
I want to add a sulfur filter to it. I mean, I have an astronomic 12 nanometers sulfur 2 filters, so I'm going to use that.
Sure.
And then I want to see if I can do the Hubble palette and kind of compare it to my shots that I've done with the 1600, just to show that it is possible to do narrowband imaging with an OSC camera. But I haven't been active on the forums because there's always those debates, OSC versus mono. But I try to stay out of them until I can back it up with some of my images. So I'm hoping to do that pretty soon.
Yeah, that should be an interesting little project you got. So
yeah, I'd be interested in that, because I've always questioned if I took a dual band filter like the L Enhance first, and then followed it up using a sulfur 2, how would it turn out? You know, if I could, because I know with APP I could split the channels. And so I'd be kind of curious to see how you fare out with that project there, TJ.
Yeah, and there's actually a cool way, and I saw it recently done. Was somebody that used, I believe it was a 071 camera, so an OSC camera with a L Enhance filter, and he split the channels in APP, and then he turned around and created a synthetic sulfur channel, and he did a Hubble palette, and that came out pretty cool. I think, yeah, it was of the Eagle Nebula, and that was pretty wild because I've never seen anything like that before. And that was just with the L Enhance and a synthetic sulfur channel. So I want to play around with this and see. Yeah. But I mean, that's how we improve on our images. I mean, we go against what the recommendations are and find new ways and improvise. And next thing you know, it's a whole new way to go at it. So
exactly,
and I like testing things out and trying things out, going against the norm. And that's how when I first started, everybody told me stay away from the f3.9 Newtonian. It's just going to be a headache for you. But I went with it anyway, and I think that was the key to like getting collimation down and being able to image with such a fast scope. Because I mean, it is a different beast in itself using the f3.9 astrographs. So it was a great tool. And I think if I started with a refractor and learned on it, and some people, it's easier for them to learn on refractors. But for me, I kind of like to push things. So that's why I'm glad I went the Newtonian route. and
Okay.
jumped over to the SCT. I mean, I've played around with refractors. I have 3 refractors myself, but I rarely ever use them except for solar and lunar imaging, just because I get better results with the f3.9 Newtonian and also the SCT, the Hyperstar, or at 0.7x.
Yeah, when you got the Hyperstar and you knock that down, I mean, it's no contest. Just you know, we talk about this a lot on the show between SCT and new refractors and where to start and where to go.
Yep.
You know, it really depends on what you want, what kind of personality you have. If you have the personality that you like trying to figure things out, go Schmidt. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to be spending time figuring some stuff out. Refractors are definitely, in my opinion, they're a lot more forgiving and a lot easier to learn than Schmidt Cassegrains are. You know, because I've actually used both, and I know we've used both. But you know, to me, I just, you know, I started with Schmidt's, really good results. You can get some really awesome. Your pictures are just awesome. You know, and it's just amazing. You know, and then, you know, you get so much good stuff out of Schmidt because of the long focal.
Yep. But that versatility of the Schmidt, especially now with the fast star capabilities, where you can put on the Hyperstar, you know, and you can go F2, or, you know, for Galaxy season, you can go F7, or if you really want to go slow, you know, for planetary, you can go F10, you know, and stuff like that. But you know, it is a versatile scope. I will say that, because you have parts out there that make it, you know, basically 3 scopes out of 1 optical tube. So it's good. It's not a bad piece of glass.
Oh no, absolutely. You know, they're very, very good scopes. You know, again, it's just the learning curve on it, to me, a lot harder to work on if you know nothing.
Right.
You know, would you, you know, is that an accurate statement, you think?
Oh, absolutely, because it's a whole, with the higher focal length, you have a whole different guiding principles, and you have to be more precise with your guiding. So like right now, my RMS air, because I'm getting wind gusts out there, it's 2.79. So I'm starting to see some star trails.
Yeah.
But I mean, before it was under 1, but now that it's gusting, I'm starting to see a little bit. So, I mean, that would be more forgiving on a refractor or the Hyperstar, or a wide scope. But because I'm at 65 millimeters focal length, it's really noticeable, and it's not forgiving.
No,
now, are you using an off-axis guider right now when you're doing F7, or do you have a separate guide scope and camera?
I have a 60 millimeter guide scope, and the focal length on the 60 millimeter is 240 millimeters. And so that is comparable to my field of view. And so I really like the guide scopes versus the OAGs. I have a Orion Thin OAG. I also have the ZWO OAG, but I've used it a few times, and I just don't like the some of the stars are distorted, or they're hard to find, or they're hard to pick a good guide star, and sometimes you'll lose the guide star. So that's why I prefer the 60 millimeter guide scope.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. I've got a 60 millimeter ZWO that I was using for quite some time on my SCT, but since I've started using the 126, it came with a 50 millimeter, so I've just been using that. It's working out just fine.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Eric, what guide camera are you using on that?
Oh, the 120 MMS.
Okay. Yep.
The 3.0. Yep. I first started out with when I first started doing imaging. I still have it too, because I actually used it with the Rasa just to test around. Just like what you were talking about, just try things new. I have a 224 MC, That was my first guide scope, and it's a great guide scope, and it's really great for planetary and stuff like that. But I'm not really into planetary. But I did try my hand at taking a few shots of different planets at one point, but it's really not for me. But I still have the EMC, the 224, and I've actually hooked it up to the Rasa 8, and it turned out, overall it wasn't bad, and I've actually seen people using the 224 for pretty nice deep space object imaging. Even though it's not cooled.
Yeah, ZWO used to make a cooled version of the 224. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have.
It's discontinued though. Yeah, and that was a cool camera for like the Cat's Eye Nebula or some of the faint bright targets. I saw some people doing some quick 5-second images, but they did like 1,000 images, and it was pretty wild some of the detail they pulled with that camera.
Yeah, because I don't know if I can pull it up here. Let me just pick up my Astro.
Let's see, we got some comments here. Just asking TJ, are you using APP or PixInsight for most of your assessing?
Okay, so I use APP to calibrate and stack my images, and then I bring that image into PixInsight for everything else. And the reason I do this, for some of the guys, if you go on the PixInsight forum, they say, oh, the people don't know how to use PixInsight. I started out with PixInsight to stack and calibrate it. I used the weighted pre-batch processor, and I did all that. However, APP is more reliable for me. There'd be nothing more frustrating to me than to set the camera or set the computer up to calibrate and stack your images and come back to an error message and see that it only did like 10% and it stuck and got froze. So because the 2600 is 50 megabytes file size each, and I use the Hyperstar, which is very short exposures and lots of exposures. It will take me about 8 hours to stack and calibrate an image. So a lot of times I just load them in APP and then I go to work, and I have my settings all set so it does all the work while I'm working. I get home from work and I have a beautifully calibrated and stacked image that's all set to go to PixInsight and go to town on. So that's my reasoning for it. Some people say that they have good luck with it. However, PixInsight, in order for me to stack and calibrate, I have to babysit it and I have to sit by the computer to do it. And I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like to sit down and to waste half my day stacking and calibrating in PixInsight when I can just dump it in APP and let it go to town. So that's my reasoning for it.
I mean, I've been using the system without the weighted batch pre-processing, and once you got all the kinks out, or your set and all your different little weightings that you, I haven't had really much of an issue with it. For a long time I would stack in Guy Stacker and bring that into PixInsight, and then I started to do the manual stacking and calibration in PixInsight myself because I like to kind of learn things are doing. And then I started using the weighted batch. Well, before that, just pre-processing, but then the weighted batch. So far, so good with me. I haven't had much issue. But again, one thing that Ron Brecher showed me was to if you have the capability of a solid state drive in your computer, point PixInsight to the solid state drive to use as a sub-file drive, and that will super speed up your stacking and your process. All calibration will be super fast. It probably took. I did 29 hours of the Hard Nebula, or 26 hours of the Hard Nebula, and weighted batch pre-processing in about 2 hours.
Wow.
With the solid state drive and using that as opposed to your regular standard hard drive, your regular SSD. But it really definitely, once I was waiting, like you said, all day waiting for this to pop up, then all of a sudden you got red letter on your screen, and you know,
Yeah,
issues.
that's
You know,
frustrating.
it is. And wait, I got to do it all over again. Are you serious? You don't do that. You know, and it's definitely heartbreaking. But once once all my settings set and all my things taken care of, and I haven't had with it so far. I guarantee you tomorrow when I start it because I said something, it's gonna screw the first thing I do tomorrow because it's
Right.
my first off in
Yeah.
a week, so I'm gonna be processing tomorrow. So I'll probably set up and watch some TV and come back and say, God
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, the other
Yeah.
cool feature in APP that I really like is the light pollution removal. I don't have
Yes.
a lot of light pollution here, but I mean, it removes any gradients from moon glow or
Mhm.
anything along those lines. If the moon's out while you're imaging, it'll really clean that up, and then it makes it easier to bring it into the dynamic background extraction in PixInsight. So
Yep.
it's just another tool in the belt.
Okay.
So speaking of dynamic background extract, do you use the dynamic or automatic?
I use the dynamic.
Okay. Because any particular reason automatic not good enough, or dynamic just more control, or what?
I like the dynamic just because when you set up your grid, you can move them off the stars, and I'm not sure how automatic does it, so I worry about automatic kind of taking over and doing its own thing and not doing it correctly or not doing it to the best of its abilities. So that's why I like dynamic. I can actually control that, and I have more hands-on in that process.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I did a test the other day between I had I think it was one of my M101s I was working on. I did a dynamic background extraction just like that. I generated my spot and I moved them off the stars and I kind of took away from the galaxy and got a little sampling, and then I did the AB, and the AB was just like big circular gradients and splotchiness and stuff all over the place, and the dynamic background extraction was like clean, totally
Okay.
clean,
Yeah.
no problem. So I don't know what the difference is besides just changing where the samples are.
Right.
I mean, why would any of the algorithms be different from one to the other? Think about it. One's just automatic.
Yeah.
The only thing that you're doing is making whatever adjustments and moving those samples or the sample size possibly bigger or smaller depending on what the automatic is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the dynamic definitely is so much better and so much more accurate. You'll get a much cleaner picture, I think. Well, than
Yeah.
the automatic.
Yeah, that's what I also found as well, just from
Yeah.
playing around and trying different methods. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that definitely.
Because I'm basically using APP and Photoshop right now. While I still haven't. I'm still
Photoshop?
learning.
Make
Well,
Photoshop?
APP. Yeah, APP. I do majority of everything in APP. Like I'm doing the calibration. I'm doing my star calibrations. Everything in there, and then I'll throw it into Photoshop. Just to tweak, a little bit here and there because I still have those tools like Andy's Astro tools and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then I'll just, finish it up in there. But no, I'm still. The goal is for me is to still, get used to using PixInsight. Because I'll be honest with you, the only thing I'm using PixInsight for right now is Blink.
Oh.
That's it. That's all I'm using PixInsight for right now is Blink.
Oh man!
Wow.
What a waste of money that is.
I know, right? So no, I mean, I bought into Adam Block's video series, and I've been watching those. So no, I'm making the investment to go ahead and get going into PixInsight. I mean, it was a good, it was a fair investment. It wasn't cheap, so I'm gonna have to give it all my, I have to give it more focus.
It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still have Photoshop on my computer just because I still use Photoshop for lunar, solar images, planetary images, and also for the ISS transits. I mean, I haven't found any other way other than Photoshop to combine them into one image and align them and stack them. But so I still use Photoshop as well.
Yeah.
Do you see Chris's comment? PI.
Yeah, dude.
What are you doing?
PI for
PI
Blake?
for Blake? What are you
Dude.
you can order them all in Photoshop and just like
I know. I'm gonna hear from everybody now that I admitted that.
you have to spend 200 plus on a blinker.
Yeah. Oh.
That's funny. But what was I gonna ask? Let's see. Oh, Eric, you need a long time. And then I'm still learning. And I was also at Blink. Not anymore. That was
Not anymore, yeah, Tara. Thank you. I'm not the only one. But no.
Blink is awesome.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I have done, the batch processing, the batch reprocessing. I've done that. I've actually played around and actually done the just the long version of doing, the image calibrations and all that stuff. So I've gotten, so I've started using that, but I haven't gotten into the next steps yet of, of ABE or DBE and, and noise reductions and things like that. So it's slowly coming along.
Oh.
But I am getting, but I'm understanding it.
Learn DB.
Yeah.
Learn DB. Don't even mess with it. Don't even mess with it. You're gonna make a good picture look horrible.
Okay. So right now, I am messing around a lot with the image calibration and making super bias. And I did actually make a couple super bias in my masters, master flats and stuff like that. So I am learning some of the things, but give me some time.
Got you. Apparently, we're all locked. We got plenty of it. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Let's see. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll have to email you my workflow, Eric, for PixInsight. Because I have a good workflow that's pretty generic for any image any deep space image. You just run it right through. And I was actually thinking and looking into making like an auto script for it because it's pretty good. And I mean, it's pretty generic too. So I mean, there are some tweaks that you can do to make an adjustment, but it pretty much flows right through. And it gives you a decent image through PixInsight. Yeah.
Good.
That's cool.
Yeah, I started out with Star Tools. And Star Tools isn't bad, and it's pretty inexpensive. It's a fairly reasonably priced processing suite. So, and then and so I started using that for quite a bit. Then I went on to when APP came out. I was like, oh yeah, this is nice. So I ended up doing that. But then I said, you know what? PI. Everybody's talking about PixInsight, and I'm seeing all of these great images coming from people processing out of PixInsight. And there's got to be a reason why it costs so much. I mean, it's got to be worth it. It's got to have something. So yeah, that's when I went ahead and did that.
Let's see. Tarek wants to know if you have a gallery online, Jay.
astronorth.com.
Yeah, that's astronorth.com. There you go. I throw it on there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And I actually have an updated website that's hidden right now, but it'll be coming online pretty soon. And it's going to have all the updated images and stuff. But my favorite image that I've ever captured is the Shark Nebula. That's my favorite that I've done.
Yeah, I saw that one that printed out. Yeah, I gotta try out that Bay Photo place.
Oh yeah, yep, they're phenomenal out in California.
Yeah, I gotta try that out because I think that maybe I was going towards the metal. I'll show it. Do I have it? Yeah, I got it right here. It's the metal.
Oh yeah, yep.
But it's they totally you can't really see it. It doesn't just do it justice. You can tell it's totally oversaturated. This is not the way it looks. It's too purple.
Did you have auto corrections on there?
No, this is actually another distributor that was I actually told them specifically, do not touch the colors. Do not touch the picture. Leave it alone. I want a nice aqua blue in the middle, and stuff like that. They totally this is the second one. The first one was too dark. This one's over sharpened. So now I'm thinking, because after speaking with you earlier this afternoon, going to paper prints. and
Yeah.
and throwing it in a frame.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So Bay Photo also does a print. It's called Pearl. Pearl looks like a holographic image. It's beautiful. So I did my Horsehead Nebula in Pearl, and also the Crescent Nebula in Narrowband. I did
Okay.
that one, and it looks wild. I brought them into work with me to show the guys, and they were like, "Oh man, that's pretty cool." And this stuff that they're not interested in, so for it to catch their attention, they're like, "Oh, that's pretty wild."
Yeah.
So
And
I recommend
what's
throwing a couple.
What's this
What's that?
company? What's the company that did this for you?
Bay Photos.
Bay Photos. Okay.
Yep. Bay Photo Lab out of California. They're quick, fast shipping. They're on Facebook. They're very interactive. And I actually got the recommendation from other astrophotographers.
Okay.
So that's why I went with them. And the whole reason for me switching over to them was my local Sam's Club, where I used to get my images done. I'd go in there, and they knew the system. They knew not to touch the auto color correct. So if there was a new person running it, they'd forget about it, and I could tell right off the bat that they used the auto color correct. So that's why I'm wondering if they use auto color correct on yours, Dan, even though you told them not to.
That's what because it's show off. I mean, if I show you the real picture, you'll be like, "Whoa."
Yeah, and your color. I mean, if you send me the image, I'll take a look at it and tell you if it's off. Because I mean, that's the best way to see if your monitor is not calibrated. Is if you post a picture and people are like, "Oh, what's going on there with the core? Why is it so saturated?" So I mean, other people's feedback is great to have too.
Let me see if I can. I think I brought it up last week, but let me see if I can I'll send it to you too, because you're not going to be able to make any changes on it. But here is. Don't make fun of the saying on the top, because it was a present for my wife Valentine's Day. But, so no jokies. No making fun of me. It's a little corny, but so that's the image.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, it's a nice smooth blue. It's not oversaturated. So I'm wondering if they did overcorrect the saturation.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was like, the first one that I got was so dark you couldn't even see the nebula over here. It was all like background stars. It was like a whole chunk was missing. This whole chunk was missing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working on this picture since November. After about 8 different sessions in 26 hours, I got it. So
it's really nice, man.
So I actually got this lady who wrote this say. I actually got her okay to use it on. I got because she's like, "Oh, it's great." Da 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 da. I was like,
Now, I'm taking a look, CJ, real quick, and your Stark Nebula looks awesome, bud.
Oh yeah, it's
thanks.
really good. That's like an awesome shot.
That is really cool, and I love Dark Nebula, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I love Dark Nebulas too.
Yeah, I can't wait to go after it again. I'm going to try it again, and hopefully by that time I'll have the 533 because it comes. I think it comes in August. It's actually we're able to get it in either like August or September time frame.
Yep, so, that's when I thought I shot it around mid-August.
Okay.
And that's a cool and that's a cool thing with astrophotography is every year we learn and improve our skills. So these targets come back up and you take another shot at it.
Another shot at it. And yeah, that's a great thing about it. Absolutely.
I mean, I was going through some old photos, my pre-CC photos, and I'm looking at these they're not usable for anything for the part. It's not even. It's just so. They're not that the pictures are bad. It's just that everything is off. Some focus off. Something's off. They're totally unusable. So I'm looking at all this that I took over the past however many years. That's just basically unusable. And it's kind of upsetting.
Yeah.
It's depressing, actually.
What kills me sometimes is and I don't know if anybody who has APP does this. When you're doing your star calibrate, when you're doing the registration of your stars, and I am, and I'm using my ASIR for my focusing, and I'm usually, getting my on the ASIR. It uses HFD, so I'm usually getting it down around, in the mid one range or even sub one. And every time it just kills me. It's almost every time I'm doing the star calibration, it does its scoring. It uses full weight. It does the full weight half measure, and it's always like it's 6 or 7 or some obscenely high number. Have you seen anything like that, TJ? Or maybe it's just the way my focusing is just off.
Yeah,
no, I have not seen that.
Okay.
That's what it sounds. I was at about 7 on my half flux, and all it was the focus on the goddamn.
Okay.
And, that you really want, if you could get the star profile window open on PD, and it'll do a nice little fake histogram peak graph.
Okay.
And if you get that, you want to get that more or less pointed up in a peak, not a plateau.
Okay.
You go by the number to go by the peak. You want to get as low number as you possibly can.
Right.
But just if you get that peaked up, you'll know if the goes wider, you're going the direction. So once you get to that peak, then you're good.
Yeah, because and is that when you're using your guide scope? Because like I said, when I'm doing this, even on the 126 and stuff like that, my half flux, like I said, it's in like the 1 range. It's never, it's like in 1, 1 point whatever or below that. Because I also have the ZWO, the EAF. So
right. I'm
tweaking it, and I'm slowing it down and tweaking it the best I can. And I take my shots, like some test shots of, because I'm usually using, I'm not using super low magnitude stars, like a Vega or Capella, some of the more common stars. I'm usually because TJ even recommended this to me at one point in some of our chats, to use the more mid-range, I guess, stars instead of those really, the brighter stars. So that's what I've been using. And I usually get, on the half flux diameter, like I said, I'm pretty low, but I don't know. I don't know if it's something that fluctuates during the night with the focus or whatnot. I'm not sure. But I end up getting a high full weight half measure when after APP does its calibration to the stars. So who knows?
Yeah. On that same note, I notice when I put my scope out, my focus doesn't settle until about 10 p.m. on my scope. So if I put my scope out at about 4:30 p.m. when I get home from work, and then I go out, start imaging at 7, 8 o'clock, if I get a perfect focused image, it will shift at about up until about 10 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock, I go out and do a final focus, and then I'm good to go for the rest of the night. And as long as the temperature doesn't drop drastically, I'm good to go for the rest of the night.
Okay.
All right. And I got about 8 minutes to my peer flip.
Okay.
So if I disappear and we're still talking, you know what?
And you're doing this off of SGP, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm gonna videotape it and put it up and see if it actually works.
Okay.
Nice.
And if you see the camera fall, that means I'm running the catch
Yeah. But, you're brave. The ASIR, I will not let it flip unsupervised.
Yeah, same.
This will be my first one ever. I will sit there and I'll wait till I get there, then I'll put the scope and I'll redo everything and just, get it on the other side. You know what I mean? I'll let it replay itself. I'll park it. I'll wait about 5 minutes and then I'll start the sequence over again. But I need to get to the point where I'm comfortable with doing it supervised. And I guess the only way to do it is because I would like to image till 2, 3 in the morning.
Right.
But things are going to go past a meridian in the night. I don't want to stay up. I want to take a nap, and I want it to park when I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want to image 2-3 hours a night, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
We start imaging now in New York in the summertime at 9:30.
Right.
And by the time if it's a weekday, we all got to work in the morning, or most
Exactly.
both got to work in the morning. So there's sacrifices in this sacrifice. There's always so much I could do.
Right.
Yeah. If I need a good night's sleep, I'll set my alarm because I'll look at Sky Safari and figure out when I need to flip it.
Yep.
And I'll do a manual flip if I'm going to be sleeping. If I'm going to be up, I'll let it do its thing and I'll just supervise it. But that's how I overcome that, so I can still get a good night's sleep. I just set my alarm and then I do a manual flip, and it takes probably about 10 minutes to do, and I'm back to bed.
Yeah, my wife would kill me, and my would kill me for setting the alarm. And on top of that, once up, I'm up. I will never get back to bed. And I may as well start either drinking or drinking coffee.
Recently what I've been lucking out and not having to do any flips, because I've been switching over and manually using Sky Safari. Once I get it, and then I'll get it to the point where I've got the mount on the east side facing east, and I'll push it to the point where that mount can't get any closer to that, to that tripod leg. And if I can get it there, and then I can zoom in, and then if I can get it there and lock it in, then I'm set. And then I know, hey, once it goes over meridian, it's not gonna have to worry about doing the flip. It's just gonna keep going.
Yep.
So I try to push it.
I don't blame you.
Because that's what I've been doing with M51, because M51 right now is pretty much I would say it's pretty much at zenith at this point.
Yeah,
it's pretty high up. And that's what I've been doing, is that I've been pushing it, with the OTA being on the east side, and just getting so close. And then I'm like, all right. And when it can't, because I have tried the Meridian flip for the ASI Air, but just pointing it this way, right now it's been fine. It's I've been lucking out. So.
Yeah, it's been a hit or miss for me on the Meridian flip on the ASI Air with Celestron mounts. Some people are saying it's an issue and a bug, and sometimes after the Meridian flip, tracking will turn off in the ASI Air app.
That's happened to me.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen all the time, so I don't know what's causing that or what the glitch is there that's doing it. Because it happens probably only maybe 3 out of 10 times it'll turn the tracking off.
Okay.
But still, I mean, that's still enough to be worried and have to babysit it.
Yeah.
I got 3 minutes. I'm going outside, so if you guys are still talking.
No worries. Yeah, but that's happened to me where, it would turn tracking off for some reason. It is. And if it's something more along the lines of something with dealing with Celestron and with the Celestron mount versus others, that's interesting. So
yeah.
And there goes Dan getting ready. Is that cold out there now?
So I see Tariq said he wants to know more about a flat device. Is he talking about my my flat panel that I use? Is that what he's looking at? Maybe
so. I've actually started looking at some sort of flat panel, a dedicated flat panel. I can't remember the name of it.
I use a Spica flat panel.
That's what it is. Thank you, Spica flat.
Yep.
And because I think they're manufactured in Wisconsin, so I could get it pretty quickly. Living here in Illinois. So no, I've been looking at that, and it looks like it's a pretty good size. So how many millimeters wide is it? So because I'm assuming it's plenty wide enough so it can handle your 9 1/4.
Oh Yeah. So my buddy Nathan Duso, he actually bought the same one, and
Okay.
he's using it on his 11-inch without any issue.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, but let me see if he wants. I'll break it out. It's right behind me. If you want
Okay.
to take a look at
Yeah,
it.
let's take a look. Because I'd be very interested in seeing this myself.
All right, so this is the Spica flat,
Okay.
and it has a little remote control,
Mm-hmm.
and it has different settings that you can preload it.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So you just, I don't know if you can see it. So it's dimmable, and it's nice because with my fast scope, it dims it right down, so I can target that 24,000 ADU value
Mm-hmm.
at a 5-second exposure, which is how I do my flats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you pretty much stick
But
at 24,000? Is that pretty much your standard ADU?
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. So even with my 1600, the 294 and the 2600, I've stuck by that with the cameras. And I've been pretty good about it. That way, it's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard with the ZWO cameras on the flats. Their ZWO cameras are pretty poor and they're inconsistent. With the noise patterns at short exposures. So that's why people recommend over 2.5 seconds.
Okay.
And that's the reason I use 5 seconds for mine.
Okay.
So with the flats,
so I'm able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I can't even see that it's on when it's at its dimmest setting at 5 seconds with the f2.2 Hyperstar.
Mm-hmm.
But I nail my flats perfectly, and I used to do sky flats before, and then I threw white T-shirts on after I started catching some stars in them, and then at 5-second exposures. So then that's why I mean the Spica flat is expensive. I want to say I paid over 300. I think it was like either 200 some change or 300. So it did take a substantial chunk of change out, but it was worth every penny to me. And that's what I like, equipment that I can look back and be like, wow, I'm glad I spent that money on that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the pier, and you're going to see when you get your pier installed, you'll be like, wow, a metal pier, it's pricey, but oh man, that's one of those investments that I'm really happy about. Same with the 2600 camera. I'm really pleased with that. And also the Spica flat panel.
Good.
So it cleans up my image nicely. I like to reuse my flats. So my even though I adjusted the focus slightly, I still use the same flat, and it doesn't have any. It doesn't give me any issues as long as I'm not rearranging the camera, pulling the camera, or moving the orientation. It's good to reuse, and that's another reason I don't like using the OAG, because if I'm moving the prism to look for a different guide star, I'm moving the camera, moving the optics, and then I have to redo my flats. And I mean, I'm being a little ridiculous here with it because flats, they take me probably about 5 minutes to do, but but still, it's 5 minutes that I could be doing something else.
So how many are you on? So usually how many flats are you doing? Because I do 60.
I do 53.
Okay.
Yeah, 53 is my lucky number. And this is some hearsay. So I heard that the algorithms, it's better to use odd numbers for your calibration frames. So that's it's like a tiebreaker. So that's the reason I use odd numbers. So 53 is my lucky number. So I always do 53 darks, 53 flats, and the 53 flat darks or 53 dark flats, however you want to say it. Yeah.
Okay. Mark is saying he's been using the Pegasus Astro Flatmaster. I have seen the Flatmaster, but for me, since I'm using so many different optical tubes, it's kind of small for me because I think I can only use it for up to like maybe a 4-inch or a 4-inch refractor or something like that. So for me, it's probably going to be too small. Now, TJ, when you're doing your flats, you don't use a T-shirt anymore, do you? You're just using the Spica flat.
Yeah, with the Spica flat, it's been tested and designed so it has a perfectly smooth and non-textured screen, so you're not going to get like the fibers of the shirt if you're doing too fast of an exposure.
Gotcha.
Which I've seen some people do. They send me their flats and they're like, hey, I get this weird pattern in my flats, what could this be? And then you're like, wait a second, take a look, it's your T-shirt that you're using, or they're using a T-shirt with a stain in it or something along those lines.
Right,
you're looking at it. So, I mean, I don't like it. I used to use the T-shirt, and I've tried just about every method you can think of. I use the sky flats. I use the iPad on the top. I've used computer screens. I've used a white wall. I've done everything and that you can think of, and the Spica flat is the best way that I've found.
Good.
And it's very consistent. And consistent's what I like, because I don't. I saw one of my buddies here. Sent me a picture of his flat and his light image, and I'm sure you saw it. It was beautiful data of the Iris Nebula, and he had dust motes on it, but his flats weren't correcting it. So I don't know what happened. He's saying that he used the same flats that he always used. Well, he redid his flats, but he's using the same process and the same process that takes care of the dust motes, but there's obviously something on there if it's not taking care of it.
Right.
Whereas this is very consistent with the Spica flat panel, so that's what I like about it.
Now, with your flats, since you say you reuse your flats, because for me, I was always under the impression flats are the one thing you have to do after an imaging session. I mean, even if it's, as long as you don't mess with your imaging train, you can still do your flats a day or two or whatever, as long as you don't mess with the imaging train. But you should always do flats after whatever imaging session you've done. Now you've actually said that you reuse flats, and other people reused flats. Are you doing them with a particular filter? Like say just a luminance filter, and you just use that?
No, I'm sorry. As long as I do not change the filter and I don't change the orientation of the camera, I'll reuse them until I start to see dust or something appearing.
Oh, okay.
But because you always want to take your flats with the same filter, the same optics, same focus. However, I find, like I said a little bit ago, if I tweak the focus a little bit, that's still good enough for me for the flat, because I keep my optics pretty clean, and my filters clean. So when I more or less use the flats for gradients, light gradients across the image. And vignetting. So that's what I use them more for. But if I change the filter or move the camera or switch the Hyperstar, I always redo my flats. And I see one. Chris said his flats are 2 months old. He never touched the camera.
Okay, so all right,
So yeah. So, and I know a lot of guys with the Hyperstar that leave their Hyperstar on it and they don't change their camera orientation, or they don't change their filter and they're just using a light pollution filter. They'll keep those same sky flats for probably 6 months, 7 months before they redo their flats. So I've seen a lot of people too, which doesn't make any sense. They say, oh, I do my flats before the imaging session. And I'm like, how do you do that? Because you don't know where your focus is going to be, and you're just putting your camera on. It doesn't make any sense to me how that works out for them.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I gotta say,
how did it go?
Perfect. It was perfect. I do need to fix some of the wires. You know, when the motion occurs, but it takes a picture, and then it moves scope, and then it takes a picture again. Late solves it to the first picture, and show
Nice,
you
man.
real quick. Let's get it on the screen. I think I could do that. And this is the first after the meridian flip.
Okay.
Nice.
And this guy, I forget what this is over here, but this was here originally.
Yep.
Now it's down there.
Down there.
And there we go.
Okay.
So it worked perfectly. I got to say, though, the EQ6, it still scares me how quiet it is. It is so quiet. Coming from the world Mead and Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! I mean, I'm used to
right
all night, and it's interesting. I mean, I thought it was broken the first time I slewed the scope at use EQ mod. So I was at rate 4, and I'm waiting to hear something in the back. I'm like, yo, nothing's moving, and then I'm sure and turn around and it's moving. I was like, man, it is so quiet. It is so quiet.
Wow.
It was nice. It was nice. But at
Good.
least I know it won't wake people up at Cherry Springs this year.
There you go.
If it happens.
Hey TJ, when you do your guiding, have you ever used periodic error calibration?
No, I have not.
Okay.
No.
I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah.
No, the ASI Air is very simple with the guiding. I just have my calibration, my steps, and then I have the aggression. So I'll look at my guide graph. If it's a little too spiky, a lot of spikes, I'll lower the aggression. If it starts to drift a little bit, then I'll increase the aggression. So I find that happy medium, and that's usually all I do. I do for the guiding. Because obviously, if you program the PEC to your mount, I think it will conflict with the ASI Air, and I think it'll create more problems with your guiding because I don't think it goes good together. And I'm wondering because there's some guys that have the same equipment, same mount that have issues, and I always tell them factory restart your mount, clear out any settings you had in there, and then it works right off the bat for them. Nice. So I think there's some settings that do conflict with the ASI Air when you set it up.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
What did I miss when I was gone out for 5 minutes? Anything interesting?
Yeah, we were actually talking about TJ Spica Flat. I see
some of the comments over here.
Yeah.
Nice.
One with the.
Nice. I'm not that lucky. I got a little. What do I have? The Lacerta panel that I just put on the top. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you use a T-shirt with yours, even though you put the panel over?
No, I haven't had to diffuse anymore. I've been getting some really decent data from the flat. I've been knocking everything out of the park. So I mean, no dust modes, nice flat field. I haven't had any issues, so until if it's not, don't fix it. So I mean, just.
What do you guys use yourselves to clean your filters and your camera sensors and things like that? What do you guys use?
Spit. That was a joke, guys. Please. Just in case any of you guys heard that, I don't want to comment and say, "Well, Dan told me to use Windex, and now my triad filter is worthless."
Oh,
you can, What do you use?
So people are gonna say no, don't do it that way. But I just use compressed air. I have a little bottle that I buy at Walmart, but I always spray to the ground first, and then I just give it a little dusting.
There's a little shot of compressed air. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of
with bigger, like an actual.
Yep. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, you're
that's how
brave.
I
You're
do it. I know
brave,
a lot of,
man.
yeah, but I spray it at the ground first, so
Okay,
it
fair
gets all
enough.
the little moisture out. But that's how I do it. A lot of people say, "Oh, use the squeeze bubbles," like
Yeah,
the photo, those
yeah,
little
yeah,
poofs of
Yeah.
air.
flashing, yeah.
But yeah, I squeeze those, and it doesn't do anything. So that's why I like the dust. I like.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's like a whole thing on Astrodon. Don had
Mhm.
a whole thing about Kimmy wipes and putting it on one side and wearing gloves and you know. I'm like, this is way too much. I know your filters are quite expensive. I have them, but it seems like you're like doing brain surgery on this thing. I'm like, but so basically what I do is I tell them I either get a bit of this stuff if it's really stuff on the filter. I actually have it ROR little spray on pec pads
Okay.
for their lint free wipes. They're really really good. And just very very slow. Don't pressure things. You gotta kind of like drag them across a little bit, and then there's also stuff that you can use. The Zeit cleaning wipes is really
Hmm.
good for getting the extra streaks out that anything. But and also
Okay.
nothing a little higher breath and a nice little lint free could
There
do
you
it
go.
too. As long as you don't need dust or anything, you don't want to be
Yeah.
scratching anything. You make sure any dust motes or dust anything is. You don't want a piece of sand going across. Oh, I just cleaned it off, and now you got nice scratch across your $300 filter. That wouldn't be a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah. It's I'm happy right now that, like my 294 sensor is actually cleaned because my story with that thing, how that was a while back.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
yeah. You threw the dirt ball at it.
yeah. Yeah. And so I ended up buying one of the DSLR, the little sticky wands,
Oh,
and slowly just sticks.
yeah.
But
Well,
but it worked. You got everything off of it, so I was really happy because I was kind of upset at myself with that 294. It's like all this, all these dust right there and on top of the sensor, but no, it worked out fine. So I was just
that
kind
was
of curious about what you guys are doing.
that was probably the worst looking sensor I've probably ever seen in
Pretty
a
bad.
long, long time. I mean, it was. I don't know how you got it that way. I mean,
Yeah. It was weird. I mean, it was just because I actually took the lid off of the top off of the 20 or the 294 just so I can replace a desiccant tab because it looked like one of them had cracked and broke off in there. So I just and I don't know, maybe just the air exposure when I was working in my little workshop. Too much dust and it just landed on top of that thing.
yeah,
So,
man, a dust magnet.
yeah, it was. It was.
But I don't know how long you guys want to keep going. We've already been like 3 hours almost.
Yeah. Well, I say if you want, you want to give it because I can just another 10 more minutes wrap up at the
Wrap up
hour.
midnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Okay.
Sound good to you, Teach?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm actually trying to find a picture of a sensor that I was
Uh-oh.
messing around with. It's a DSLR sensor, but I was using little balsa wood to scrape the Bayer matrix off it. So I wanted to show you because it'll make you cringe.
Oh, just thinking about it right
This is
now, making me cringe.
yeah, this was before I went to the 1600, the monochrome camera. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll take my 450D because I self-modded it. I pulled the IR filter out, made it more sensitive to the infrared spectrum. So I did that all myself. So I was like, you know what? I'll take it a next step further, and I'll try to scratch the Bayer matrix off. So I found that for $15, you could buy a new sensor on eBay. So I went through about 6 of them.
Oh, wow.
I had one sensor that was actually pretty good that I scraped the Bayer matrix off of. I'm trying to just going through my images right now because I have it on here.
Was the 40D, was that your first camera that you used for imaging? Or?
Yep. So yes, the 450D is the first camera that I started using.
Okay.
And that's the one I pretty much learned on and got the basic astrophotography, like the fundamentals with it, and then switching over to the 1600 was a real treat. And then going to the 294, it actually brought me back to the DSLR like days, because the 294 is very similar to DSLR, except instead of the ISO, you have the gain and offset.
Yep. Do you vary your gain much? Either for doing broadband or narrowband, do you usually keep it at unity, or do you vary at all? When you're doing narrowband or anything like that.
Yeah. So for broadband with just a UVIR filter, or with a 2600 without a filter, I usually use gain 0, or if I was using the 294, I'd be using unity gain 120 or 117. I used 120. I know unity gain in the specs is 117, but I used 120, and then I would for narrowband filters, I'd bump the gain up to 200 just to. I don't know why, but that's how I did that. Let me just pull up. I'm just going to share the screen on this. This will blow you away.
All right. Get it bigger for you.
I don't know if you can see the sensor there.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Holy cow!
Can you click on it bigger, or?
Yeah. Yep. I have satellite internet, so it's really slow. That's why I can't wait for Elon Musk's Starlink to give me some high-speed internet here.
Oh my God!
Wow! Oh man!
Yeah, but look how good that is. I mean, see, I scraped it all off. You just have to be really careful. These little gold wires here, they're very delicate. You breathe on them wrong and they'll break.
Wow.
But, yeah, so I had some fun doing this. My dad works with microscopes at a hospital, so he had all the little equipment to borrow and use to do this. But you can see how thin these little wires are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I would never think about trying anything like that.
I'm actually looking for a video that I did. I was working on a telescope at Camera Concepts. We got this really nice old Byers Celestron telescope with a drive on it. And I'm wondering if I have it. Of course, I can't find it.
And here's my self mod with the 450D. Come on.
I can't believe I found it. Okay.
Okay, I'll give you the back to screen here.
Okay, there's your chat.
I see. So this is a classic C8. Give me a second. Let me get it on now. God damn it. And here it is. And so here's the classic 8, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that is old school.
Wow, that's old.
Yeah.
Oof.
Holy cow. Look, oh my God, what the hell? Nah, I can fix that. Oh.
It was such nice. The guy goes, "Oh yeah, can you fix this?" I'm like,
Oh man.
yeah, no, this is fixable, man. I'm not going to be able to replace that cutter. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But we
So I
have
saw
so many.
something. This post reminded me of something I saw on Facebook where it was a cracked corrector this guy had, and he wanted to put a spider on it to hold the secondary, and then use it for planetary. So I don't know how that would work, but I mean, yeah, I suppose it would work for planetary. It just wouldn't work for deep space.
Yeah, but that's about it. Yeah, I wouldn't even know
Yeah.
where to even start with that because you'd have to get a spider to fit inside of the tube. So it's going to be a custom spider one.
Hmm. Yeah, he's gonna 3D print it.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
that or have a metal shop guy make one. And then you're going to have to figure out the focus point of that because that's going to be a disaster. I mean, the tube's only this big.
Hmm.
I mean, not to mention the fact that the hole on the back of the, you got a nice big hole at the back,
Hey, let me share my screen. I just found this. This was kind of funny looking at that old CA. So let me share my screen here. I'm gonna share my screen. Share. And let me see here. Look at that. Talk about old school.
Hey, Dan, Mark.
Ouch.
So we forked it and we sold the motor, fork arms, and I believe that I can't turn the screws here. I've got a project on it, but I believe this is that secondary. This I kept the secondary because
Wow.
I'm working on a MacBook Pro, so I got all these little screws on the top, so I don't want to turn it upside down. But this is the second for it.
Wow.
I had to keep. I can't believe that Meridian flip worked. I'm happy. That's like getting I can get sleep now.
There you go.
I got 3 or 4 new cables coming in, 1 foot serial cables, so I could make things a little bit neater.
Yeah.
And hopefully I could actually image past like 2:00 in the morning. I could go to bed at a normal hour and just do the whole thing and then park and go to bed. As long as there's no rain on the night, I'm good.
TJ, speaking of overnight stuff, I still haven't figured it out with my particular, maybe it's just something with my ASI Air or my iPad, where if I start an imaging session and I'll watch it, and so I'm checking it, and before I go to bed, say it's probably if I'm doing 30 shots, and before I go to bed, I'll just go ahead and close up my iPad. It's probably at 12 shots at the time. When I wake up the next morning, it's probably stopped at about 18 to 20.
So I remember
really
this
weird.
issue having that.
But it's yeah.
Did you have dithering on?
And,
Did you have dithering on when that happened?
I did. Yes. Yep, I do.
Because
Yep,
I'm wondering if it was a bug or an issue with dithering and it didn't settle.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Because when you play,
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, the iPhone and tablet are just the iPhone and the tablets, iPads, they're just windows into the ASI Air. So if you turn them off, you lose connection with your tablet or your phone. It's not going to do anything. If you disconnect or turn it off, it's not going to do anything. I was looking into that with the metal cover, and I actually have a metal cover on a magnetic cover on my iPad, and I use that all the time. When I'm ready to go to bed, I just flip it and it shuts the iPad off. So I don't think it was anything triggering it through the iPad.
Right.
So that's why I'm more leaning towards dithering or maybe a bug with that where it didn't settle. Because for a while I wasn't dithering because there was a bug in it, and so I wouldn't. It would settle on some occasions, but other occasions it wouldn't settle, and it would waste the whole night. And just like you said, you had about 18 images, and then it stopped. And that's what I would go to bed, and I'd want 200 images, and I'd wake up and I'd have like 30 images. So, it could have been a bug with that. I mean, I don't think it had anything to do with flipping the cover closed or turning it off. Just because I do it all the time, and I know a lot of other users do it that way. Just so I'm not staring at it all night, because I find a bad habit of, if I set the iPad next to the bed, I put it on the guiding, and I sit there and I stare at the guiding like all night. So it's a bad habit for me. So I just shut it off.
That's me too. That's me too.
Right. I don't even bother anymore. You know, I honestly, I'm guiding now, and I just look at the stars. If the stars look round, still, okay, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Still, you want to keep that mess down, as much as you can. But you're right, EJ. I'll sit there. It's like a drug. You got to see that number. I need to see that number. Why is that red bar so high? Why is it going so low? What's going on?
Yeah.
This whole night's gonna be worthless. Look at my guiding. Up by like a 10th. No.
Yeah.
I had the weirdest thing. Yesterday, because with me imaging M51, everything is going great. I'm ready for bed. I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I'm doing 5-minute images, and I'm into it, and guiding looks great. But all of a sudden, the stars were just getting slightly elongated, slightly oval, and it was, and the guiding looked great. My previous images, I did like 10 previously, they were fine, but then 11, 12, 13, they were slightly elongated. And so then I had to get dressed, go back down to the mount, screw around with it, and just take a look. And looked like there was nothing wrong with the mount. There was nothing wrong with the cabling or anything. But I just barely touched something on the mount, like a couple of wires, just to make sure there's nothing in the way.
Yep.
And suddenly it goes back to normal. And then for the rest of the night, it's fine. And I actually, because of the issue I've been having with the iPad, or with it just not doing what it was doing, stopped, if it's dithering or what, I actually flipped the iPad upside down, and just lay it flat up against, on my bookshelf. And that's that way it goes dark, where I can't see the light, but it's still on. And then I wake up the next morning, it's about 10% battery left. But still, it's got all my images there. So,
wow.
But it's been weird. Well, it's 11 o'clock, guys.
It's 12 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, it's 12 o'clock your place. You guys just 12.
I think this is actually the longest show on record, I think.
That's great. That was a good time.
Let's see. I got, if I got to get out of my remote desktop. 3 hours and 4 minutes, including the 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think even when we've had, with Tim on, I think we went a little while.
Oh yeah, 2.5 hours is usually about normal. Yeah, it's about normal. Because you sit there and you talk about whatever you want to talk about. We like to keep it light.
Exactly.
Like to keep it light because you know what, this is not a hobby faint of heart.
No.
For any means. So many things that you could add on, and the more things you add on, the more of a variability that something's going to screw up along the way. And until you get your own workflow down, and which take time, you'll be wanting to pull your hair out.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, TJ, whenever you have some time, shoot me. I'll shoot you I'm not sure if I shot you my email, but I'll shoot you my email. If you ever want to shoot me a copy of your workflow or whatever for PI.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Message me your email and I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, and TJ, hopefully, if they let us the house, maybe in the summer, go up there, do some golfing or something.
Oh
Yeah.
Nice.
The extent of my golfing's miniature golf, but
That's fine too. That's okay. We can do that. We can do
Sounds
that
good.
as long as there's some alcohol involved. I'm good.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There you go.
But thank you for coming on. Thank you for being patient with the technical malfunctions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
You know, again, you know, whenever you want to come on, hang out with us, just say I want to come on. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun, so I'm up for that anytime.
Just next week, I think I got them locked in. Next week we got Rasher coming on. He's AstroDoc. He's on next week.
Nice. All right.
So you know, I just solidify that, and then I don't know what's after. So we'll have to see. I got some graphics set up for next week. So be around to watch for the funky graphics that I made up.
Sounds good.
All right, so get some rest. TG, safe out there, you know, and you and your family, and Eric, you as well. Be safe.
Thanks. You guys have a good one.
All right.
Guys, have a good night.
Thanks, you guys too.
Take it easy.
Care.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Good night.